just wrote like this, you understand?
Okay, dear colleagues, dear friends, welcome at our standing committee meeting. It's a little bit unusual setting for the standing committee, but I think anyway we'll have interesting discussions today. Please take your seats and we'll start as usually. At the beginning we are welcoming new heads of delegations. There are some of them. First, I'd like to welcome and greet Mr. Georgios Stylios from Greece and Mr. Mikita Poturaev from Ukraine. So welcome, and I wish you fruitful activities in our assembly. So agenda is already circulated and you have that. I just like to tell you we have one small change here according to some departure times of some of our speakers. Here we'd like to offer that the number 4 goes down, so the report of our Vice President Lord Bonis will be a little bit, in advance than other ones, and then, and the treasurers and simply to say, we are moving down, starting from 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and then putting up Lord Bonis' report. So I think it's acceptable, and if it's a no, any other suggestion, can we consider that it's agenda adopted? Thank you. Agenda is adopted. Now we have a second point, the second paragraph or issue in our agenda. It's a report of the President of the OSCPA. So it's my pleasure to report to you. Always, that this report is more factual and describing all the activities which the President, on behalf of you, was done by President during our last meeting. So, dear colleagues and friends, let me now brief you on my activities as President since my re-election in Luxembourg. And once again, I'd like to thank you for your confidence and for your support during my re-election. And immediately after our annual session, even just when we completed the session, we went to the airport and fly to High Tatras, where we participated in OSCE formal ministerial meeting conducted by Slovak Foreign Minister and Chairperson in Office Miroslav Lajčák. And that this meeting was to address the challenges of organization is facing. I presented our Luxembourg Declaration and reiterated our readiness to provide key input to the work of our organization in all fields of security, by encouraging our governments to leverage the distinct contributions and added value of parliamentary diplomacy to improve the life of our citizens. Together with the Secretary General Montella, we held bilateral exchanges with a number of foreign ministers, including those from Sweden, Spain, Luxembourg, Kazakhstan, Albania, and Armenia, on issues of mutual concern and interest. Over the summer, I continued working closely with the Secretariat on organizational issues, including several appointments, to better address relevant challenges while promoting geographical diversity and a greater gender balance. To replace Makis Voridis as the head of our ad hoc committee on countering terrorism, I have decided to appoint Abid Raja from Norway, Vice President of Norwegian Parliament, as a chair, and Lisa Chambers from Ireland as a co-chair, with a view to support more transparent policy making effective anti-corruption strategies and alert OSCE parliamentarians on significant threats to security and stability that corruption poses, I have appointed Irene Charalambidis from Cyprus as Special Representative on Fighting Corruption. I have also appointed Pia Kauma from Finland as Special Representative on Civil Society Engagement, and it's happened first time, and both appointments, a Special Rep in Corruption and also Special Rep in Civil Society issues, that happened first time, and I think it's an important step. So we need to promote the greater cooperation between the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly and civil society organizations. Parliamentarians you all are very well placed to foster inclusive, all of society approaches to the many challenges we face. In this regard, let me thank the US delegation and the Helsinki Commission, and especially our esteemed colleague and friend Elsie Hastings, for inspiring this new position and for their role in promoting the resolution of civil society engagement in Luxembourg. Moreover, I have appointed also Luca Santolini from San Marino as a special rapporteur on disinformation and propaganda. It's not a special representative. It will be submitted special report on this very important topic. The phenomenon of fake news is posing a direct threat to our democracies and needs to be better addressed. And finally, last week we had another appointment of Stefana Mladenovic from Serbia as a special representative on a digital rapporteur on a special on a digital agenda. It is also the key topic of modern times, and it's right for us to look into it with more focus. I look forward to work with all of you, dear colleagues, and hope your dedicated activities and recommendations in our respective fields will benefit positively all our Assembly. Dear friends, as the summer drew to a close, I was in Kiev to attend the opening session of the newly elected Verkhovna Rada, thereby expressing our solidarity with the Ukrainian people. And we all, and I personally very much appreciated that gesture from the new Rada, new leadership, and the Ukrainian authorities to invite President of the Parliamentary Assembly as a special guest there. As the new Ukrainian Parliament committed to ambitious reforms in the face of continuous challenges in the East, I encouraged, of course, continued strong engagement by Ukrainian parliamentarians in the work of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. Yesterday, we had a very substantive discussion with the new members. I appreciate their willingness to be, to continue that active work which Ukrainian delegation did in our assembly, and of course Ukraine will be in focus of our parliamentarians. While in Kiev, I have good conversation also with the new parliamentary leadership, the President of the Parliament, Vice President, Chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee, and of course I use this opportunity to meet our Chief Monitor of the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission in Ukraine, Ambassador Chevik, and of course thanked his team for the support provided to our members on field visits to Eastern Ukraine. And we discussed the current situation on the ground. I also discussed very thoroughly all the projects which are supported by OSCE with a project coordinator in Ukraine, Ambassador Henrik Villadsen. And there are numerous, approximately 40 or 42 different projects and initiatives to encourage democratic reform in Ukraine. In early September, I was in Copenhagen to visit our International Secretariat and to prepare activities for the fall. That was very important planning meeting, and I'd like to thank Secretariat for very fruitful work there. I was glad to have the opportunity to exchange with our Treasurer, Peter Juliansen, and members of Danish delegation, members of Danish Parliament, as well as Foreign Ministry officials. The same week, participated in the third International Parliamentary Conference of the OSCE PA Silk Road Support Group, held in Andermatt, Switzerland. We had a meeting of this group, which is really becoming a very strong oversight mechanism on this big, I would say, gigantic the project. And Andermatt conference was really distinguished with its content, with a good organization. I'd like to thank Vice President Guliev for his leadership on this initiative, and of course our Swiss colleagues and friends, Filippo Lombardi and Margaret Kernellen, and also the local authorities there for a great hospitality and very interesting discussions and really very good environment we appeared this nice Swiss Alps. In addressing the supplementary human dimension meeting in Vienna, which is the biggest human rights, let's say, meeting on human rights issues for the OSCE in July, and the human dimension, of course, implementing mission in Warsaw a few weeks ago, I have stressed that protection and promotion of human rights requires increased dedication and focus by all. I was very much pleased to be accompanied in Warsaw by our third committee chair, Kyriakos Hajivani, and our new special representative, Pia Kaum. Our work in Warsaw clearly signaled our continued determination to engage directly with civil society and ensure that our governments are responsive to the concerns, needs, and aspirations of the people. This was also the aim of the side event we organized, by the way, first time at this meeting, on parliamentarians' human rights priorities. And I'm very much satisfied that we had a very good participation of the leadership of ODIHR and other experts. They've been with us. Also, there was there were American colleagues, Helsinki Commission representatives, Alex Johnson and others, and we'd like to thank all of them. Together with the Secretary General Montella, we also had the chance to exchange substantive discussions with the OSCE chairman in office, with the Secretary General and all heads of institutions. So it was very useful for us. Last week I returned to Central Asia with a visit to Nur Sultan for my address to the fourth meeting of speakers of Eurasian parliaments, where I also had an opportunity to discuss a number of priority issues with the speakers of both chambers of the Kazakh parliament, of course, of both chambers, as well as bilateral meetings with speakers of Armenia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Moldova, North Macedonia, Tajikistan, Turkey, and Uzbekistan. So it was not only handshakes and exchange of few words, but we had a very substantive discussion with the speakers. Then from Nur Sultan, then I carried on Bishkek for a very interesting seminar on parliamentary oversight organized by UNDP and ODIHR, and of course for bilateral meetings with the Kyrgyz Speaker of Parliament and other authorities. And with this, we emphasized once again our extended engagement and increased activities in Central Asia. Dear colleagues, as you see, we have carried on with a high pace in the second half of this year as we prepare, of course, for the OSCE Ministerial Council meeting in Bratislava. Next week, I will participate in annual. Now it's about my plans. I will participate in the annual South Caucasus Media Conference in Tbilisi to discuss the need to strengthen media freedom and the safety of journalists in the age of digital reporting and in times of political change. Then we are planning to be in Belgrade to participate in Interparliamentary Union Assembly to continue our outreach efforts to strengthen our cooperation with regional parliaments and parliamentary assemblies. On that occasion, I also look forward to holding a series of high-level bilateral meetings with the Serbian authorities. The following week will be in Strasbourg for meetings with the leadership of the European Parliament to further strengthen our joint work, in particular in the field of election observation. I will also address the biennial European Conference of Presidents of Parliament hosted by PEACE and plan on holding on several bilateral meetings at the same time. At the end of October, there will be in Vienna, the second time for this year, traditional address to the OSCE executive branch, to the ambassadors, permanent council, and when I will present the Luxembourg Declaration and encourage our governments to consider our recommendations as they prepare for the Bratislava meeting. As we mentioned many times, it's very important. Many, let's say, suggestions, ideas should be implemented, inserted in the documents of Ministerial Council for a further implementation. And I think a level of cooperation with the executive branch gives us more hope that we can achieve, better results in this. In November, I hope to take part in a few additional visits, including in Albania, Armenia, and Ukraine. I also plan to participate in the Baltic Assembly meeting in Riga and visiting the partner country, and then we're also planning with Special Representative Pascal Alizardi, his initiative to visit Egypt and to, let's say, expand our cooperation also in this region. Lot of plans, lot of visits. I think that, and I also encourage our colleagues, leaders, also if they have any ideas to join any activities, please let us know to accommodate to your desires. As mentioned in early December with our Bureau members, it will conclude somehow the year, will be in Bratislava, where is a main, of course, event of the OSCE Ministerial Council, and we will address Ministerial Council on behalf of you, and of course, look forward to our Bureau meeting at that time. So, as customary, we will have our Bureau meeting in Bratislava. So, thank you very much for your patience. I know that that was quite a long report, but you see that there are a lot of activities which we did together, not only me, and of course there are new plans how to we proceed with our other activities. So, if there are any questions at this moment, I'm ready to answer, and then immediately I'll tell you that we will move on to discuss current international political issues. Please, Doris Barnett.
Vielen Dank, Herr Präsident. Ich war ja gerade mit Ihnen bei der Silk Road Working Group. Also eine wirklich spannende Sache und sehr interessant, wie dort gearbeitet wird. Mein Problem, das ich hier habe, ist, wir deutschen Delegierten können da erstens nichts unterschreiben und können da zweitens, wenn Reisen anstehen, wie zum Beispiel nächstes Jahr in die Türkei, nicht mitkommen. Wäre es denn nicht denkbar, ich habe die Satzung durchgeguckt und habe nichts gefunden, dass es Working Groups gibt. Wäre es denn nicht möglich, und ich bitte darum, das wirklich ernsthaft zu prüfen, ob wir diese tolle Geschichte denn nicht zu einem entweder Ad-hoc-Ausschuss, aber noch viel besser einem Unterausschuss des Wirtschaftsausschusses machen können, weil dann wäre er ja ganz offizieller Teil der OSZE, PV, und dann könnte man daran teilnehmen, und wenn dann Reisen anstehen, dann hätte ich nie Probleme, weil ich immer sagen kann, ist eine Sache der OSZE, PV, ist halt vom Unterausschuss, und dann könnte man da auch teilnehmen. Ich bitte das wirklich mal zu überlegen. Vielen Dank.
Thank you, dear Doris. I understood what you asked about, but look, this we are talking now particularly about the one group, which is a working group on Silk Road. So this group exists almost 3 years, and there are 25 members of this group. They have their own rules, and it's not officially committee or subcommittee of our assembly, but in our statutes, in our rules and procedures, we have the assembly members have right to compose working groups. And if there isn't any barrier for German delegation, we will sit with you and discuss with also our secretariat, and I think that also Lord Bonus will clarify a little bit on this issue, how to proceed and how to help German delegation, if you need that help, to attend any meetings officially, as you said. It's notice taken, so we'll try to accommodate you. Yep. Please, Peter.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Can I just support what Mrs. Barnett has suggested? It is a very real problem for a number of parliaments to have the permission or the funding that he has referred to. There is a wider point, however. There is a much, much wider point. I acknowledge the working group and the work that it does. I am in no way hostile to that working group. I think it is very good that it exists. It is, however, dealing with a situation, as Vice President Al-Assad mentioned in the opening of the Mediterranean Forum, dealing with a key issue that affects our region and indeed the region of the Mediterranean and our associate states. So to bring that into the arena where the whole of the assembly can participate would, in my view, be a step forward. That is not to criticize what's been done, not to suggest that they can't have a working group if that's what they want, but it's a major and key issue which oughtn't to be left just to a working group. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As I told you, I understand the problem is, which was, and it's taken into consideration. I think we will discuss it with the group, with the leadership. It's a chair, there are vice chairs, there are 25 or more members, and as I said, and I promised you, we will revise that, let's say, rules to accommodate maybe more countries to participate if they want that. If you want to say, Azayguli wants also to clarify.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, let me thank for your beautiful job and activities that you carried out for the last 3 months. I really appreciate, and I think that we are in the right track. Concerning the Silk Road Support Group, I would like to make some clarifications. First of all, as you said, it is informal working group established by the delegations of the OECPA, and it is purely volunteer for the member countries to join or not to join. This is the first. Second, this is a platform where we can discuss the wider issues related to the Silk Road, the other economic component of our corporation. I think it poses a great interest for the participating states. This is why, if you look at the number of the member of the group is 25, so it means that there is a increasing interest to that. But I fully understand, Madam Doris Barnett, that there could be a certain legal, let's say, issue that needs to be discussed. So we are ready to welcome a German delegation at any level, at any format to be part of that. Concerning the Peter Bone's remarks about the Pascal Alizard concern that he raised 2 days ago, I think, yes, there is a legitimate concern. We have also a legitimate concern. As President, you rightly mentioned that the Silk Road Support Group is to oversight the activity of the executive branch. And I invited today, I had a discussion with Pascal Alizard. I invited him to the Vienna session to have a broad information or report about the concern that he really raised. So we agreed that I do believe that Pascal Alizard will make some clarification in Vienna session. I think it is a really great interest of our assembly. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you very much, Azai. I think we have to finish now on this topic, because there are other topics, as I know. It's quite clear. So if we can distinguish two things. One is, let's say, procedural issue. We will revise the game procedures, but it's a working group in which you could be united if you want that. Another one is a topic. And I think we as a parliamentarians of OSCE 57 countries, where some projects could be implemented or started already to implement, and a big infrastructure projects, we have a legitimate right to oversight this process. And I think that it's a good oversight tool. If there are critical issues, let's bring to the table, let's flag it up, and let's say that this is bad, this is good. That's a beneficial, that's a threat. Security issues, poverty issues, jobs, and so on. So please, let's maybe in a smaller circle then discuss the procedural issues, but not discuss now the principles, what we are doing now. Pascal, please.
Oui.
Yeah, and it's a very good initiative if you will then report in Vienna. At least.
Oui, Monsieur le Président, très rapidement sur le sujet. Bon, moi je veux bien qu'on discute de statut et c'est toujours très important. Je voudrais quand même attirer l'attention de mes collègues sur l'importance majeure de ce sujet, premier point. Deuxième point, ne faisons pas l'erreur de tomber dans l'idée que ce ne serait qu'un problème économique. J'ai fait un gros travail sur ce sujet pour le compte du Sénat français et je peux vous dire qu'à Pékin, j'ai rencontré des représentants de la très haute administration chinoise et à 1 heure d'intervalle dans 2 bureaux différents, un représentant chinois m'a dit « Monsieur le sénateur, ne vous inquiétez pas, c'est un simple label commercial » et dans un autre bureau, et là c'était le directeur général de la réforme, c'est-à-dire le plus haut fonctionnaire qui répond directement au président chinois sur ce sujet, qui m'a dit « Monsieur le sénateur, nous préparons une offre alternative à l'ordre américano-centré. » Voilà ce dont il s'agit. Et je crois que nous devons prendre la mesure de ce qui se passe, sans hostilité et sans naïveté. Et moi, je voudrais saluer le travail qui est conduit dans notre groupe de travail, alors qu'on fasse évoluer son statut, pourquoi pas, parce que, comme j'ai eu l'occasion de le dire hier, c'est la première fois, face à la Belt and Road Initiative, qui sont en fait des conventions unilatérales multiples, que l'Occident essaye de multilatéraliser la démarche face à la Chine. Donc je crois que l'Assemblée parlementaire de l'OSCE a pris un avantage fondamental sur ce sujet, et j'en remercie les responsables du groupe de travail, et ne gâchons pas cet avantage par des débats stériles sur des problèmes de statut. Merci.
Thank you very much. We already started to discuss international affairs, so let's use then this time, but there are a few other speakers on different topics. Please, Filippo Lombardi.
Thank you, President, dear colleagues. As a Vice Chair of this working group on Silk Road initiative, of course, with the Swiss delegation, we organized the last meeting in Andermatt. And we adopted a declaration of Andermatt. But please, it is the declaration of the participants. And the beginning of the declaration says, we, the participant to the conference in Andermatt. It's not an OSCE and not an OSCE-PA declaration. But I totally agree with Pascal Alizar. This is a very central issue we have to deal with because it concerns most of the participating states of OSCE and one quite important state outside OSCE. So probably it is an issue of central interest for the future decades in all the Eurasian continent. The idea behind this declaration of Andermatt, which is only an internal working paper of this working group, is that we go on. We will have another meeting in Istanbul in April, and at the we will try at the end of the Istanbul meeting to merge the conclusions of the Istanbul meeting with the Andermatt meeting, and if the participants will agree, to submit the result as a possible supplementary item for our General Assembly in Vancouver. And there, this will be the moment where formally we will have the possibility to discuss, to vote, to amend, to accept, or to reject these supplementary items. That's the moment where our work will merge into the official work of our Parliamentary Assembly. Nota bene, we did the same with the special ad hoc working group on migration. I had the honor to be the first president of that working group. After 1.5 years of work, we came with a paper adopted by the participants of the working group. We introduced it to the summer plenary meeting in Minsk. It was discussed, amended, adopted, and it became part of the Minsk Declaration. From that point on, it is a document of the Parliamentary Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With this, I think we will conclude the discussion on this topic, and then we'll start other issues which will be discussed for this part of this standing committee. So we have 6, 7 speakers already in our list. First, Mr. Guliyev from Azerbaijan, followed by Mr. Jabarov from Russia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen,
Margareta.
first of all, let me thank our Moroccan host for the organization of our autumn meeting, since it is my first speech. And I do appreciate that we, as the OECD Parliamentary Assembly, first time ever, are holding our session in partner countries, which is pretty much appreciated. It also means that OECPA is really willing and ready to cooperate not only with member countries as well as with the neighboring region. This is why I think it was a good decision, and the Moroccan leadership and the parliament did their best in order to meet all the expectations. Dear President, I'd like to touch upon very important issues concerning the regional security in our region. This is why I'd like to ask to give a bit more time in order to cover the subject properly. As you may witness that as a Vice President of the Parliamentary Assembly, I tried not to concentrate too much on the regional affairs, on the regional issues, talking about the Armenian-Azerbaijan conflict, with the view that it could be the subject of the, let's say, other members of the delegations. But this time the situation, unfortunately, has been changed. I do ask you to be a bit patient, because I'd like to really draw your attention to the very important issues that really pose the direct threat to the regional security, and of course impede the negotiation process that is going on between Armenia and Azerbaijan for the last 3 decades. But before doing that, I'd like to start from positive things that really has been occurred in the conflict between Russian Federation and Ukraine. I do appreciate that the Russian Federation and Ukraine were able to swap the prisoners in significant number. It is a good sign, and it makes a hope for the further discussions. I also would like to appreciate that the conflict in Transnistria area in Moldova is also in the right direction, the right track. And I'd like to just remind you the recent statement made by the Secretary General of OSCE, Mr. Grimminger, about the hope that the Transnistrian conflict should be resolved soon based on international laws, comes to the sovereignty and territorial integrity and inviolability of internationally recognized borders. But unfortunately, we can't say anything about positive steps with regards to Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. This is, of course, it makes me concerned, and I'd like to draw your attention, because I think these issues deserve the attention of our assembly and the member of our assembly, and particularly the head of the delegation, should know about that and should be aware about the real threats. Several weeks ago, dear friends, Armenian Prime Minister Pashinyan, while illegally visiting the occupied territories of Azerbaijan, talked about the way of conflict resolution and stated that Nagorno-Karabakh is a part of Armenia. What does it mean? It is a legitimate question which needs to be answered. I will say my own opinion. Firstly, although the fact of annexation of Nagorno-Karabakh by Armenia was very well known, however, Pashinyan's statement once more proved this reality, and Armenia officially admitted its annexation and the occupation policy. In particular, it reminds me that the resolution of the Supreme Soviet Armenia SSR of December 1989 on the unification of Armenia, SSR, and Nagorno-Karabakh, which then was heavily rejected as an illegal act. All these facts again and again demonstrate that Nagorno-Karabakh conflict is neither human rights nor self-determination issue. As Armenia claims, it is a clear annexation and occupation of significant part of Azerbaijan territories about which we have been talking for 3 decades. Secondly, this statement utterly kills, unfortunately, and nullifies all efforts of the Minsk co-chairs to seek the negotiated solutions to the conflict. Again, another question arises. If Armenia considers that Nagorno-Karabakh is a part of Armenia, then what is the need and the meaning for negotiations? If Armenia doesn't want to have the peaceful solution, then what is the alternative for peace? I think the answer is clear to everyone. Dear President, dear colleagues, I am coming to most worrying and unpleasant news. Just 2 days ago, Armenian military forces committed another provocation on the contact line of Azerbaijan-Armenian border in Kazakh region against the excavator laying road. As a result of shelling, the driver of excavator, civilian Safarullah Abishov, was killed. Dear colleagues, I am asking Armenian leadership to explain this brutal attack on innocent Azerbaijani civilians, and also urging the Bureau of the Committee for Human Rights and Democracy of our Assembly to immediately react and condemn this inhuman crime, which is strictly prohibited by all the international conventions. Moreover, Armenian Prime Minister on every occasion states that the outcome of the negotiations must be acceptable for the people of Armenia, for the people of Azerbaijan, and for the people of Nagorno-Karabakh. We understand people of Azerbaijan and the people of Nagorno-Karabakh. But I am curious to know, who is the people of Nagorno-Karabakh? People of Armenia, people of Azerbaijan is understandable, but who is the people of Nagorno-Karabakh? Armenian politicians who is dealing with such propaganda have to understand that there is no such a notion as the people of Nagorno-Karabakh. Yes, there is a population of Nagorno-Karabakh which consists of the Armenian and Azerbaijani communities. This is another issue that all Azerbaijanis of Nagorno-Karabakh have been expelled as a result of the ethnic cleansing policy of Armenia. But anyway, I would more than agree that the outcome of the solution must be acceptable for both communities of Nagorno-Karabakh, not only Armenians. If to follow their logic, I wouldn't be surprised when Armenian leadership would invent the new peoples on the world map where Armenia is largely settled. For example, people of Krasnodar in Russia, the people of Los Angeles in the United States, or people of Paris or France. Of course, it is not acceptable, and it is also ridiculous. I am afraid that such behavior or action of Armenian leadership could have unpredictable consequences, and therefore I recommend Armenia to refrain from escalating already fragile situation in the region and stop undermining negotiation process. In conclusion, Mr. President, I would like to urge you to accelerate the process of appointment of the OECD Parliamentary Assembly Special Representative on the South Caucasus with a view to adequately addressing the current stalemate in the negotiations and intensify the role of the Assembly for the settlement of Armenian-Azerbaijan conflict. On our part, we should also help OEC Minsk Group co-chairs to get back Armenia to the negotiation table as soon as possible and start substantive talks to change the status quo, which is very dangerous. Furthermore, the OECPA and its third committee, which is in charge for protection of human rights in the OEC area, must put on the spotlight for a agenda of swapping of prisoners from both sides, as Russia and Ukraine did it recently. As you know, Azerbaijan put forward an initiative to exchange of prisoners based on all-for-all principle. I want to reiterate that the more than 5 years to Azerbaijani civilians, Dirgam Askarov and Shahbaz Guliyev are being held as hostages in the occupied territories of Azerbaijan, who just wanted to visit the grave of their parents. However, Armenia still refuses to return them back according to the international practices. Their family members several times met with me as Vice President of OECPA and asked to call our Assembly into immediate actions to help these civilians to be released from Armenian captivity. Thank you, Mr. President.
I understand the importance of the statement, but you will continue with this time limits. I understand that the Vice President Guliyev, he asked from the beginning there will be more time, but they will continue with this time limits. We will never end this session. So I'd like to ask you all, please, keep your comments or your intervention up to 3 minutes, if it's possible, and then we can fit in time. Mr. Jabarov, please.
Thank you. Уважаемый господин председатель, уважаемые парламентарии, ОБСЕ должна восстановить во многом утраченные функции площадки равноправного диалога и принятия коллективных решений по вопросам безопасности, а парламентское ассамблея внести свой весомый вклад в сближение позиций государств-участников. Для этого необходимо отказаться от конфронтационной риторики, политики санкций и применения двойных стандартов и вернуться к диалогу, основанному на взаимном уважении и учете интересов. Мы по-прежнему убеждены, что нашим общим стратегическим ориентиром должно оставаться выполнение поручения саммита ОБСЕ в Астане 2010 года о создании единого и неделимого сообщества безопасности, а текущей задачей – восстановление серьезно подорванного доверия. Заявляем о неприемлемости нагнетания антироссийской истерии на площадке Ассамблеи. Несмотря на имеющиеся разногласия, призываем партнеров к наращиванию межпарламентского сотрудничества в интересах решения общих международных проблем, без предубеждений и политизированных установок. Наша совместная работа в Ассамблее должна способствовать сближению позиций государств-участников по всем измерениям безопасности пространства ОБСЕ. Убеждены в необходимости внесения поправок в правила процедуры парламентской ассамблеи. В частности, снижение уровня конфронтационности способствовало бы введению запрета на выдвижение проектов резолюций, направленных против отдельных стран. Нельзя допустить превращения ассамблеи в площадку для взаимных обвинений и сведения счетов, которые подрывают любые попытки восстановить доверие и наладить конструктивное взаимодействие. Мы глубоко разочарованы результатами ежегодной летней сессии в Люксембурге 4-8 июля. Голосование по итоговому документу сессии состоялось при отсутствии кворума в нарушении правил процедуры парламентской ассамблеи ОБСЕ. Присутствовали 112 делегатов из 323. Российская делегация заявила тогда, что не считается связанной этим документом лишенным какой-либо силы. Чтобы избежать повторения имевших место в Люксембурге нарушений регламента Ассамблеи, необходимо в правилах процедуры гарантировать, что решения парламентской ассамблеи действительно принимаются только при одобрении большинством ее членов. В этой связи предлагаем проработать вопрос о цифровизации системы подсчета голосов и определения наличия кворума. На фоне повсеместного внедрения информационно-коммуникационных технологий недопустимо в столь принципиальном вопросе полагаться на личное усмотрение ведущего, определяющего кворум на глаз или по чьей-то подсказке. И в заключение призываем оперативно проработать предложенные поправки к правилам процедуры и рассмотреть их на зимней сессии в Вене в феврале будущего года, чтобы к ежегодной сессии в Ванкувере в июле 2020 года мы подошли с обновленным регламентом. Спасибо за внимание.
Thank you, Mr. Jabarov. It was partly addressed to the issue of Luxembourg Declaration. I totally disagree with you with this position, and we expressed that it's not only me, but almost all the delegations there. We never questioned quorum in this organization. But nevertheless, I don't want to reveal now the real reasons why it happened and why this procedural war was just raised or started there. But anyway, we'd like to address all the concerns of our members. And if there's anything, we can clarify in our rules that it happened also previously when we had this sort of skirmish in Berlin, quite similar, and we clarified that in our statutes. And I think Lord Bonus also will clarify today and highlight the plan that we'd like to, realize with the refining of our rules and procedures. It's a permanent process. We're trying to, let's say, modify several procedural issues, but again, to question resolution and to question what we discussed there and what we voted for, I think it's only, a matter of some internal consumption, maybe for a particular country. So we are for clarification, we are for improvement of the procedures, and we also ask you to take constructive role in this process. And now Mr. Alizad, followed by Tahir Mirkishli from Azerbaijan.
Oui, Monsieur le Président, je me permets de prendre la parole au nom de la délégation française et aussi au nom des membres de nos collègues de la délégation italienne. Et ça concerne effectivement les événements en cours au large de Chypre face à l'escalade des tensions dans sa zone économique exclusive et à la présence de navires militaires turcs dans cette zone. Nous nous sommes permis d'ailleurs de faire parvenir à l'ensemble de nos collègues un petit texte, une motion qui est relative au respect du droit international. Donc, pour ne pas mobiliser trop longtemps la parole, je ne vais pas vous en donner une lecture entière, mais néanmoins, nous tenons à rappeler que ce sujet doit être régi par les Nations Unies. Je voudrais rappeler que les Nations Unies, dans la séance du Conseil de sécurité du 25 juillet dernier, c'est la résolution 2483, c'est très récent, c'est une motion qui a été proposée par le Royaume-Uni et qui a été votée à l'unanimité, une résolution, votée à l'unanimité des 15 membres. Je vous la cite. Le Conseil lance un appel pour que les tensions en Méditerranée orientale s'apaisent en invitant les dirigeants des deux communautés et toutes les autres parties de s'abstenir de tout acte ou propos susceptibles d'entamer les chances de succès. Or, je crois que visiblement, en lançant il y a 2 ou 3 jours l'action que nos collègues turcs ont lancée avec un navire de forage, mais accompagné par au moins 2 navires de leur marine militaire, nous devons, je crois, dénoncer cette action, faire en sorte que cette provocation cesse, et nous avons bien conscience que c'est un vieux sujet extrêmement important, et nous appelons nos collègues turcs à relancer aussi les négociations avec les collègues chypriotes, au sein de l'Organisation des Nations Unies. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much. Just to inform you that we closed the speakers list, so there are a sufficient number of speakers on 12 approximately. Yeah, it's already included. So now we will ask Mr. Mirkishli from Azerbaijan, followed by Grimaldi from Italy.
Thank you very much. Mr. President, I would like to begin by thanking the President for his edifying briefing and his personal commitment to addressing the problems that have brought us together today. I would also like to thank Morocco for taking the initiative to hold this important conference on our common challenges in the Euro-Mediterranean area. The subject is strategically important when it comes to regional and international security and stability. It's also a humanitarian priority. Thousands of people have died in the Mediterranean since the beginning of this year. I would like to underline the urgency of tackling security challenges in the Mediterranean area. The Mediterranean is crossroads between Europe, Africa, and the Middle East, is facing an unprecedented multiplication of regional crises. It is home to multiple humanitarian, security, and development challenges which affect particularly vulnerable populations. It's our responsibility to take collective action against these threats. Climate changes exacerbates development issues in the Mediterranean region, and its effects are potential sources of instability and conflict in this region. When talking about the conflict, first of all, I would like to have the resolve conflict of the OCC regions. Non-resolved old conflict in our regions will motivate new conflict in this area also. Dear colleagues, as you know, during the last 25 years, we are trying to resolve conflict, Armenian-Azerbaijan conflict on Nagorno-Karabakh with peaceful talks. The continuation of the aggressive policy of Armenia and its step aims to consolidating the current status quo based on military occupation, including the recent annexation statement by the leadership of this country, even they were manually intended for an internal audience, caused the escalation of the situation in the region. A few weeks ago, as my colleague Guliyev had noted, Prime Minister of Armenia visiting occupied region of Azerbaijan declared Nagorno-Karabakh region of Azerbaijan a part of Armenia. And immediately, and a few days ago, Azerbaijan's civil man was killed by Armenian soldiers at the border of Azerbaijan and Armenia. In her comments, Russian Foreign Minister, US Ambassador expressed concern over the situations. The irresponsible and destructive position of the Armenian leadership not only does not serve the purpose of peaceful resolution of the conflict, as hypocritically stated in Yerevan, but on the contrary, it goes against the essence of the latest discussions on the settlement and aims to try to destroy the negotiation process. Dear colleagues, we call OSCE-PA not to keep silence, but to invite Armenia into constructive positions. And the last one, dear colleagues, we are living in the modern world. At this time of period, people should not sit at the jail because they have visited the grave of parents. There are such as a hostage in the jails of Armenian side till now. Azerbaijan proposed to the Armenian side in 2016 to exchange the captives held by the parties according to all principle through the mediation of the corresponding international organizations, but no response from Armenian government till now. Taking this opportunity, I call Armenian delegation here to work together with their government to realize this humanitarian act and to return people to their home. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, dear Tahir. Now we have Mr. Grimaldi from Italy, followed by Irene Charalambidis from Cyprus.
Grazie Presidente. Innanzitutto lasciatemi ringraziare le autorità marocchine, il Marocco per l'ospitalità, ma anche e soprattutto, come ho avuto modo di dire ieri al Comitato contro il terrorismo, per quello che il Marocco ha fatto e sta facendo per la lotta al terrorismo e per garantire la sicurezza a 360 gradi. Si è dimostrato uno dei paesi più moderni e capaci di intervenire nella prevenzione del terrorismo e contro il terrorismo, e quindi a loro va un plauso. Intervenivo per dare supporto e ringraziare la delegazione francese e il Presidente Alizard per questa mozione. Ci tengo a sottolineare solo una cosa, che al di là delle diverse sensibilità che si possono avere, ritengo che questa mozione sia particolarmente equilibrata ma soprattutto condivisibile, perché sottolinea una questione che penso elementare ma allo stesso tempo fondamentale per tutti quanti noi, quella del rispetto del diritto internazionale, perché se vengono meno le regole evidentemente c'è l'anarchia e ognuno domani mattina può fare quello che vuole. Penso che la sicurezza e il rispetto a 360 gradi passi dal rispetto delle regole fondamentali, e le regole fondamentali sono quelle basate sul diritto internazionale. Quindi questa ritengo che sia una mozione particolarmente equilibrata, che cerchi semplicemente di porre la questione in modo che a livello internazionale, attraverso le Nazioni Unite, si possa iniziare a dirimere nel modo più saggio possibile, senza evidentemente arrivare a situazioni particolarmente critiche o di eccessiva ostilità. Quindi il mio ringraziamento a tutta la delegazione francese e al Presidente Alizardi. Ovviamente per quanto compete l'Italia, noi sosteniamo questa mozione nella speranza che tutta l'Assemblea possa in qualche modo suffragare per chiedere il rispetto del diritto internazionale e un po' di saggezza in più che non guasta mai. Grazie.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Please, dear Irene, the floor is yours. And next speaker will be Mr. Potoraev from Ukraine.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Alizar and Mr. Lobarti for the statement. Let me remind you that OSCPA stands for Organization of Security and Cooperation in Europe. We cannot have security in Europe and cooperation if every now and then we have the Turkeys threatening and invading the interests of European states. France is part of Europe. Cyprus is part of Europe. Italy is part of Europe. And now the Turkish do not allow the consortium of a French and of an Italian interest company to do what they have signed with the Cyprus Republic to do. And we have to take a stand on that if we do mean that we work for security in Europe. We have to make a clear statement that violation of the international law will not be accepted, not by Europe, not by OSCPA. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you. Please, Head of Ukrainian delegation, Mr. Potoraev, floor is yours. And then will be another speaker, Mr. Konjarev from Armenia.
Mr. Chairman, I wish to start by thanking organizers of this conference on the warm hospitality which we all are enjoying in Morocco. We continue to believe in the power of multilateral diplomacy and the OSCE core concept of comprehensive security. The challenges we face in some parts of the OSCE area are often interlinked in a variety of ways with the problems we need to solve in other parts of the wider Europe. We came here to pay tribute to the OSCE and its work in facilitating a resolution of the conflict stemming from from the ongoing aggression against Ukraine. We know how many resources of this organization were devoted for this purpose. We understand that millions of euros, which are spent, for instance, every year for the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission, could be used for other purposes, including strengthening links with Mediterranean partners, and we are grateful for this. Ukraine has yet again demonstrated its commitment to peaceful resolution in Donbass and readiness to difficult compromises to this end. Following ceasefire initiative, designment of forces and voluntary mutual release of detainees, Ukraine has taken a new significant effort towards peaceful resolution in Donbass. By agreeing on the text based on the so-called Steinmeier formula, Ukraine has completed its part of the job into the run-up to Normandy 4 summit. Now it is time for other party, Russia, to contribute. We look forward to concrete decisions at the forthcoming Normandy 4 summit towards peaceful resolution and restoration of Ukraine's sovereignty in Donbass, as well as to implementation of those decisions by well-known other side and in good faith. The text agreed on October the 1st by Ukraine and Russia with the OSCE mediating efforts in the TCG framework represents a mechanism aimed at implementing one of the Minsk Agreement's provisions, notably the entry into force of the law on special order of self-governance in certain areas of Donetsk and Luhansk regions. The formula in no way substitutes the entire set of Minsk agreements or changes their security-first logic. Given that the period of validity of the current law on special order is expired after 31st of December, President Zelensky has announced that a new law will be elaborated in the parliament in close cooperation with the civil society. To come into effect, this law must be preceded by the local elections in certain areas of Donetsk and Luhansk regions, held in full compliance with Ukrainian legislation and OSCE standards under OSCE ODIHR monitoring. This means, in particular, voting rights for IDPs, participation of the Ukrainian political parties, free functioning of the Ukrainian media, and unhindered international observation. All Ukrainian institutions engaged into election-related activities, Ukrainian law enforcement and judiciary should be fully operational in the certain areas of Donbass to ensure the elections are conducted in line with the Ukrainian legislation. The leading role of the Central Election Commission of Ukraine is managing the electoral process must be secured. Security is the must for establishing necessary conditions for launching the electoral process. Implementation of the initial security provisions of the Minsk package of measures, withdrawal of foreign armed formations and mercenaries, disarmament of all illegal groups, as well as reinstatement of border control will be crucial in this regard. Ukraine's consent on this text, based on the so-called Steinmeier formula, in no way means our recognition that all necessary security conditions for local elections have been already met. Quite the contrary, current situation along the line of contact as well as safety situation in the certain areas of Donbass remain dire and require immediate improvement. Safe and secure environment will open the door for holding local elections in Donbass in full accordance with the international standards for democratic elections, inherent in particular in the 1990 CSCE Copenhagen document and other OSCE documents. It is absolutely essential for the credibility of the OSCE ODIHR assessment to cover the entire electoral process before, during and after elections, as prescribed in the 1994 CSCE Budapest document. Access of candidates, media, IDPs and observers, their safety and security, equal opportunities for campaigning, political, security and legal frameworks, election administration and possible external influence must be crucial elements, along with the situation on election day for assessing the local elections in Donbass. Ukraine will continue its tireless efforts to stop hostilities and bring peace back to Donbass, restoration of sovereignty and territorial integrity in internationally recognized borders. The occupation of Donbass will remain at the core of these efforts. For many years, we were the gates of Europe, and it wasn't our wish to become the shield. Do we hope for peace? Yes. Are we sure? Not yet. We remain ready to contribute our knowledge, expertise, and lessons learned from aggression to the OSCE in dealing with security, socio-economic, and humanitarian challenges related to the armed conflicts. large movements of people, environmental problems, insecure borders. Those are only some of the challenges which are common for us. We stay committed to sharing our experience within the OSCE. We will continue supporting the Slovak chairmanship and the incoming Albanian chairmanship in strengthening the links between Europe and its neighbors. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. I already announced, I think, Mr. Konjarian, please. And then next speaker will be Roger Wicker from United States.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Dear Mr. President, dear Secretary General, dear colleagues, I prepared another speech for today's Standing Committee meeting, but of course, after speeches of Azerbaijani colleagues and especially Mr. Guliev, I have to change a little bit my speech, and I would ask also President Tsereteli to give me a little bit more time, as you already did the same in case of Mr. Guliev. Of course, I respect all rules of this forum, but you understand that I have to respond to Mr. Guliev. First of all, I would like to tell Mr. Guliev that we are not in Azerbaijan, where you can manipulate public opinion, telling different stories, groundless and baseless stories, imprisoning your political opponents, journalists, who spread light to different topics. We are in OSCE PA forum, when there are different views, and when you say something, you know that there will be answer. So now, Mr. Guliev referred to the formula offered by Prime Minister of the Republic of Armenia. First of all, the formula was that the settlement of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict should be acceptable to the peoples in Armenia, Artsakh, and Azerbaijan. So first of all, I want to say that Nikol Pashinyan, current Prime Minister of Armenia, is the only leader of Armenia, the first leader of Armenia, who tells such things, who tells that any resolution of the conflict should be also acceptable for Azerbaijani people, not only for Armenia and Nagorno-Karabakh. So now I want to ask Mr. Guliev, do you have enough courage to say the same to Azerbaijani people? Can you just go and speak with them, frank, and say, guys, you know, any conflict settlement should be acceptable also for Armenian people and for the people of Nagorno-Karabakh. So now, what is the aim of the formula of the Prime Minister? It is that to bringing that very commitment to prepare peoples for peace to a more practical dimension. This formula is aimed at making the idea of compromise acceptable to all sides, engaging societies in creating an environment conducive to peace, as well as ensuring the responsibility and accountability of the leaders before their people. Yes, because in democratic countries, accountability of leaders to their people is very important. And Armenia is a democratic country. And what kind of country is Azerbaijan? In order to substitute its maximalist approach, Azerbaijan has always used rhetoric of dehumanizing Artsakh and the Armenian people overall. Such instances of dehumanization include pardon of Ramil Safarov by the president of Azerbaijan and his glorification. If someone forgot who is Ramil Safarov, I want to remind you that in 2001, in Budapest, in NATO training, Azerbaijani officer Ramil Safarov entered to the room of sleeping Armenian officer and beheaded him by axe. Could you just imagine? He was sleeping. and Azerbaijani officer enters to the room and behead him. So, the Azerbaijani maximalist rhetoric and dehumanization of the people of Artsakh create existential security threat to people of Artsakh. And today, Mr. Guliev, he also rejected the very existence of the people of Artsakh. He says, who are the people of Artsakh? So he doesn't recognize that there are people living there. So, effectively countering this threat is an all-Armenian issue, which was best formulated through the commitment undertaken by the authorities of Armenia before the people of Artsakh on August 5, and about that speech was speaking Mr. Guliev. So now, Azerbaijani authorities try always to distort the very essence of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. And they try to show it in another light. And they try to show it in a light that this is the conflict about the territory. But no, this is not a conflict about the territory. This is the conflict about people. Real people who live there, who has their own rights, and they have their right to choose their destiny. But Azerbaijani authorities do not want to talk to these people and negotiate with them because they want to have the territories, but not the people. To be more precise, territories without the people. That is why Mr. Guliev rejected very existence of the people of Nagorno-Karabakh here. Mr. Guliev also was speaking about the provocations in borderlines. I want to tell you that 2 days ago, in Tavush, which is the region of the Republic of Armenia, by the provocation of Azerbaijani soldiers, was killed a soldier, Mushera Abovyan, and several soldiers were wounded. So this is also the result of bellicose rhetoric of Azerbaijani authorities. This is also the result that they cannot just sit and speak with their people and come to constructive ground and really to prepare both sides for the peace in our region. So there are many things that I would like to say now, but I want to conclude and I want to encourage the Parliamentary Assembly to streamline its agenda the problem of protection of human rights and fundamental freedoms of people residing in the conflict areas. There shouldn't be areas of exclusion in the OSCE area when it comes to ensuring human rights and fundamental freedoms, because conflicts are first and foremost about human beings and their rights, including the right to define their own destiny. I would also to inform, dear colleagues, on the elections of local self-government bodies that were held in Nagorno-Karabakh on 8 September. Elections were held in 22 communities of Artsakh, and more than 65% of the population took part. This is another evidence of the determination of people of Artsakh to organize their public life by democratic processes. On a final note, I would like to express my hope that Parliamentary Assembly will contribute to further democratic transformation in the region, strengthening of democratic institutions, and better protection of human rights as key preconditions for advancing peace in the region. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, I understand that it's really a very important issue. One of the most important topics that we're discussing, conflicts. And there's a place to have an honest dialogue, I understand it. But we could not transform now the Standing Committee in a, let's say, bilateral discussion. I see that Mr. Guliev is asking floor, but what I'd like to suggest to you, and then I know that there will be also desire to respond, so maybe at the end of this session I'll give you 1 minute if you want both sides, or 1 minute to respond to that. Sorry for this. Now Mr. Wicker, please, the Senator, and followed by Peter Osuski.
Thank you, Mr. President. When we arrived 2 days ago, I don't think any of us expected that the Standing Committee to be talking about the subject matter of the resolution offered by French and Italian delegates to firmly condemn Turkey's new attempt to illegally conduct drilling operations. However, the issue has been raised. It will certainly not be voted on today, but it's being discussed. Delegates should know that Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said today, made it clear that he supports the substance of the French and Italian resolution, and I quote Secretary Pompeo, "We've made clear that operations in international waters are governed by a set of rules. We told the Turks that illegal drilling is unacceptable, and we'll continue to take diplomatic actions to ensure that lawful activity takes place." Again, to quote Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Now, Mr. President, the United States delegation often does not make it to the autumn meeting of the PA, so it's wonderful for us to have 5 delegates. When we do come to Europe for the PA meetings, we make an attempt to visit other countries, and I have a report from Israel, the Palestinian Authority, and also a very hopeful report, I think, from Tunisia, if I can take a moment to do that. Just a few days ago, was it day before yesterday, time flies, our delegation met with Prime Minister Netanyahu in Jerusalem and with Prime Minister Mohammed Shataya of the Palestinian Authority in Ramallah. I can tell you, based on those conversations, there's little hope for an immediate resolution to the Palestinian-Israeli issue. As we all know, there's an election that has taken place there. 2 candidates are trying to form a government. It seems to us unlikely that either Mr. Netanyahu or Mr. Benny Gantz will be able to form a narrow majority coalition there, and some weeks may ensue before a broad coalition of national unity might take place and be put in charge of the government in Israel. So that is my report from there. I will say this: Prime Minister Netanyahu is not preoccupied with forming a government. He's preoccupied with the threat coming to his nation from Iran, and that's what he wanted to talk about mostly. Let me just end with a really hopeful and optimistic report from Tunisia. There's a reason why perhaps there was little attendance from Tunisian delegates to this conference, and that is that tomorrow there will be parliamentary elections in Tunisia. There are hundreds of candidates and a vast number of party lists, but the good news is that an election will take place, and this is the second free election that has taken place since for the parliament since the Arab Spring. Now, a week from tomorrow, there will be a presidential runoff election in Tunisia. The acting president, Mohamed Nasser, is not seeking election. There'll be a runoff between Kais Saied and Nabil Kouriri. We don't know who's going to win, and that's a wonderful thing to know in Tunisia. They have demonstrated, at least on 2 occasions now, that as a result of the Arab Spring and the reforms that have come to this country, an orderly transfer of power can take place again and again. That's a very hopeful sign. There's much to be done with our friends there, just as we've heard from the entire region during this conference. The economy is not what we wish it is, but there will be free elections tomorrow and free elections a week from tomorrow for the presidency. Stay tuned, and we'll see who wins. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, dear Vice President. We care for your interesting information and the very active engagement of U.S. delegation. We appreciate that very much. And of course, there are, with some negativities in the region and the tensions, there are good news and the democratic developments. And Thank you very much for flagging up that here, although we are not observing elections there. So we wish to win democracy in Tunisia and other countries. Thanks again, and please, Peter Osuski, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm sorry to come back to one point discussed before very keenly and enthusiastic. One could quote, speaking about Silk Road, its economy stupid. It's a famous quotation. I would answer him, it's not only economy stupid, it's also a moral. I am not so keen and not so enthusiastic about the wave that could be a result of Silk Road and at the end have unpredictable results on us. We are a body that is generally taking care about human rights and fundamental freedoms. I am sure that the strategy of business as usual is questionable and often shameful. Stealing of know-how, scientific progress, result of science, was for decades working method of communist regime in China. We have forgotten about it. Killing of people, of Uyghurs, Tibetans, Laokai believers, Falun Gong believers in Laokai concentration camp, using them as a source of organs for transplantation, is other shameful chapter in the history of communist China. Are we totally blind? GDP is the main point. Perhaps I am the voice lost in desert, but here is where I stand. And in my opinion, we shouldn't think that the GDP is something as a reason to become blind, because in the period 1933 up to 1939, German Third Empire was a very good business partner with growing GDP. And at the end, Europe was on the way to hell. Thank you.
Thank you. Dear Peter, you're always distinguished by your inspirational speeches, but we appreciate your position. This is your position, as you said. I know I'd like to ask Margareta Kennan, another inspirational speaker, to take floor. Please.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Chers et chers collègues, j'ai pris la parole à Luxembourg en tant que alors présidente encore de la 3e commission générale. Par la suite, j'ai pu effectuer avec mon successeur, Kyriakos Haïdjanis, une autre mission de droits humains dans l'Est de l'Ukraine. Vous me connaissez, je suis convaincue que nous devons faire davantage pour mettre fin à cette horrible guerre qui est encore en cours à l'Est de l'Ukraine. Nous saluons bien sûr, et ici je parle aussi en tant que présidente de la délégation parlementaire suisse, nous devons saluer, heureusement, que le format de la Normandie se prépare et j'encourage les délégations parlementaires des nations, des États membres partis au format de Normandie de tout mettre en œuvre afin que cette réunion du format de Normandie puisse avoir lieu le plus tôt possible, probablement à Minsk, où se déroulent toutes les 2 semaines les réunions du groupe de contact trilatéral. La situation est encore grave. Permettez-moi de citer quelques derniers chiffres, à savoir 68 personnes tuées ou de blessés à l'Est le long de la ligne du front durant les 3 mois entre le 15 mai et le 15 septembre. Vous lisez ces chiffres dans le dernier rapport trimestriel du Bureau du Conseil des droits humains des Nations Unies. Ces chiffres sont établis par les bureaux sur place des deux côtés de la ligne du front, des représentants de ce bureau avec qui nous sommes en étroite relation de la part de la 3e commission générale de notre Assemblée. D'où la nécessité, Monsieur le Président, chers et chers collègues, de poursuivre les missions en droits humains de notre 3e commission générale. C'est un ancien philosophe grec qui avait écrit, Kyriakos serait plus à même de le dire et de le citer, « Dans la guerre, la vérité est la première victime. Im Krieg stirbt die Wahrheit zuerst. » Il faut aller sur place, il faut aller discuter avec les gens, la population locale qui encore subit les tirs nocturnes, qui encore subit les bombardements nocturnes, y compris les monitrices et les moniteurs, les centaines de monitrices et de moniteurs qui font un travail respectable et admirable, soumis à risque. Et un préopinant cet après-midi disait « Il vaudrait mieux dépenser les millions que coûte encore cette guerre horrible, vaudrait mieux les dépenser à partir de demain, chers et chers collègues, pour la santé, l'éducation et la réparation des dommages de cette guerre en victimes personnelles, mais aussi en dommages à la propriété et aussi en dommages à l'environnement par un minage absolument fou qui se situe en 3e rang après, écoutez bien, l'Afghanistan et la Syrie. L'Est de l'Ukraine, en pleine Europe, se situe en 3e rang au niveau du minage. Donc, l'appel urgent aux parties au conflit à l'Est de l'Ukraine de progresser dans le déminage initié à la zone du pont de Stanica Luhanska, que Kyriakos Haidjanis, Marc Carrier du secrétariat de Vienne et moi-même avons pu visiter à fin mai et nous pensons y retourner. A souhaité qu'avec la délégation ukrainienne nouvellement composée, nous trouverons de la part de la 3e commission générale porte ouverte pour franchir la ligne du front parce qu'il est élémentaire et il est essentiel que les missions effectuées par la 3e commission générale puissent s'effectuer en tant que mission miroir des deux côtés de la ligne du front, tout aussi bien que les patrouilles de nos monitrices et de nos moniteurs s'effectuent depuis le début de cette grande mission comme patrouille miroir des deux côtés. Il s'agit de la sécurité de la population, il s'agit de la violation des droits humains de la population des deux côtés, il s'agit encore de la violation du droit international humanitaire des deux côtés. Et pour clore, nous l'avons relevé dans le rapport soumis à votre Assemblée en juillet au Luxembourg. N'oubliez pas ce rapport, nous avons là déposé nos conclusions et jusqu'à nouveau rapport, je vous prie de vous référer aussi comme source aux faits et chiffres retenus dans le dernier rapport rendu au Luxembourg. Je vous remercie.
Okay. Thank you very much, dear Margaret. Of course, Ukraine will be, as I said already, and we're reiterating it all the time, in focus of our work, in very core, let's say, among the core issues, and maybe the most important issue. And we appreciate all the work done by you and the committee, now with the leadership of Kyriakos, and I'm very much hopeful that new Ukrainian delegation will be very closely work with the committee and with also with the other our members. Thank you very much. And another speaker now, Stefana Miladinovic, head of Serbian delegation, followed by Turkish delegation, Ms. Nabiavci, the head of Turkish delegation.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I would like to thanks to our Moroccan colleagues and hosts for the great hospitality here in this beautiful town, Marrakech. It is a great honor for me to become OSCPA Special Rapporteur on Digital Agenda. What I consider to be the main task is to find ways to facilitate the digitalization processes by providing joint support and finding adequate models for the implementation. Digitalization signifies the use of existing technologies and the ability to improve or replace the current processes and create an environment that would enable digital activities. Digitalization undoubtedly affects all segments of life, deeply penetrates in every sphere of our lives. I dare to say that the market economy as well as the services sector is more open to accept and implementing new digital solutions. At the institutional level, OSCPA countries are well aware of the importance of this process, but the implementation should be much faster and efficient. Covering all three dimensions of OSCE, I will strive to bring together all those who possess knowledge, technology and instruments, but also to provide analysis and legislatives. OSCPA is most certainly the forum appropriate for exchanging views and best practices in this regard. I'm open to share and, of course, to hear all ideas and constructive suggestions of all of you. And for the end, I would like to commend the work on OSCPA digital platform made by Secretariat. Thank you, Mr. Montella and your, of course, employers in Secretariat for the great job you did and you're still doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear Stefana. And now I'd like the head of Turkish delegation to speak, and there will be a last speaker for this debate, Mr. Gerasimov, and then we will continue with other issues.
Thank you, dear Mr. President. First of all, on rules of procedures. It is very questionable that the statement is the statement that was distributed this afternoon is formulated as a motion and called a motion. I cannot see any mention of motion in such way in rules of procedure. We totally find this way unacceptable and against rules of procedures. This is simply a statement by two delegations. And of course, every delegation can make a statement. And now, I will make our statement. Some countries' position towards Turkey on Cyprus and Eastern Mediterranean, some countries within the EU, exclusively reflects the national positions of Greece and the Greek Cypriots. Nobody cannot act as a court and try to impose Turkey the maximalist maritime boundary claims of its member under the pretext of union solidarity, in contradiction to the international law. In fact, third parties should encourage the Greek Cypriots to talk to their neighbors, to Turkish Cypriots, on hydrocarbon issues. Turkey's determination to protect its continental shelf rights, as well as those of the Turkish Cypriots in the East Mediterranean cannot be considered illegal. What is illegal is the continuation of unilateral activities of Greek Cypriots since 2003 in violation of Turkey's continental shelf rights, and as one of the co-owners of the island, Turkish Cypriots' inherent and equal rights over the island's offshore gas and oil reserves. And what is illegal and deplorable is persistent Greek Cypriots' refusal of Turkish Cypriots' cooperation proposals on offshore resources since 2011. As the country with the longest continental coastline in Mediterranean, Turkey will continue to protect its legitimate rights and vital interests in the Eastern Mediterranean in line with international law. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then we have Artur Gerasimov. Please, Artur. And then, as I announced already, if it's a desire, just an exceptional thing, the 1 minute response from Azerbaijan delegation, and then if Armenians would like to respond by 1 minute to each delegation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. President, Mr. Secretary General, dear colleagues. First of all, I want to say big thank you to all friends of Ukraine in this organization for your continuous support of our fight for restoring of territorial integrity and sovereignty of our country, for your continuous support of our fight for democratic principles and values, for security in Europe, because I want to stress one more time your attention that exactly Ukraine now is on the front line of battle for these democratic principles and values. Also, I want to say thank you for Margareta Kalin-Nellen, who really stressed attention on the price of the aggression against our country. And I totally agree that we need permanent presence of special monitoring mission or other humanitarian organization on the temporarily occupied area, both in Donbass and Crimea. And when we are speaking about situation in Ukraine and Donbass, let me share with you just 3 clear facts. Shellings almost every day. 2 more SMM UAVs were downed over the temporarily occupied territory in the end of September. 11 Ukrainian soldiers were killed, 40 Ukrainian soldiers were wounded only in September 2019. Only in September. No ceasefire. But according to the Minsk agreements and roadmap to the Minsk agreements, security issues goes first. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. So, is it still the case? Then Azerbaijan delegation want to say something? Okay.
Mr. President, to be honest, I don't want to open new discussions, but since my Armenian colleague made reference and quoted me maybe 15 times, so he asked me certain question, I'd like to maybe give some answer to that. I understand the just nervous or some excited response of Armenian colleague, because whatever I said, I do believe that it was on target. I didn't say anything that could be really just be disputed by objective experts. I just put out the question that really disturbs the region that needs to be answered. When it comes to the democratic issues or the human rights issues, I think, to be honest, we have been, witnessing how Armenian delegation tried to mislead the situation, tried to be glorify as if they're democratic, let's say, changes and development. I think Armenia is the last country who should talk about democracy and human rights. Just I want to remind them their recent past when the political prisoner and the chair of one of the political parties that died in the prison after having 54 days of hunger strike. How you can just say that we are a democratic country? Or I just remind you the court case with the previous president of Armenia, Robert Kocharyan, was when the court made a different decision, there was the immediate attack on court. This is why please don't say about democracy, human rights issue. I think this is not democracy, it is just a travesty of the democracy and justice in Armenia. So you are talking about the just the civilians. I can't understand when Armenian delegation are talking about the civilians' rights. First of all, they should clean the black sign of the conscience of Armenian previous leadership when they committed the genocide in Hocalı and killing more than 600 civilians. So this is not the case. Dear Armenian colleagues, not talk about the civilians' rights or not to killing the civilians allocated in the contact line. This is why I do believe that we should have the constructive discussions and the dialogue rather than having such a, let's say, attempt to mislead the audience or assembly. Last point, Mr. President, about the conflict resolution. Yes, I can answer. The population of Armenian and Azerbaijan community in Nagorno-Karabakh is equally important for us. Yes, we can proudly say that Azerbaijan authority is ready to grant the highest autonomy to Nagorno-Karabakh region to have a, let's say, guaranteed environment for their living life and security. So what we are talking just something that doesn't, let's say, reflect in any international adopted documents. I don't want, Mr. President, to go into the details saying that how Azerbaijan's position is supported by internationally adopted resolution or document, because everyone sitting here knows very well. So this is why, please, don't just mislead. Just be enough courage to help as a parliamentarian to get the solution to the conflict that is lasted for 30 years. This is the position of Azerbaijan's side. Instead of accusing Azerbaijan for nothing, it would be great for Armenian leadership to come to the negotiation tables and to have the constructive and the substantive talks for the settlement. This is why, Mr. President, sorry for being a bit long, but I don't want to have the impression that Armenia is a champion of democracy. Armenia has a right to accuse the countries of others. Please first look at the situation in your country, then try to accuse the others. Thank you, Mr. President.
Well, if you remember, once we had a special session dedicated to Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, and it was a long time allocated to discussion, dispute, especially on this issue. I think maybe it's a good time also, not now for this session, but maybe in coming an hour for the other meetings, we can organize this special, let's say, debate on this issue. I think it's important. We see still tensions, we still, unfortunately, the hostile rhetoric, and that's our job of this parliamentary assembly, to mediate and to foster proper dialogue. So I'm very sorry. So we have to finish now. Of course, after you, we're not discriminating, of course, but there will be sufficient time. Exactly the time when Mr. Guliyev spoke now, it will be provided to you, and then we will, of course, finish that. There are then one clarification from Greek delegation, and then we will continue with other reports, and first will be Peter Bonas.
Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, first of all, I want to say I'm very sorry that you have to sit and listen this traditional, somehow, blame game about the issue of about the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. and you have to listen all that misleading and manipulative claims that express my colleague, Mr. Guliev, from the delegation of Azerbaijan. So, Mr. Guliev, of course, you cannot speak about the democracy, because look at your political system. When last time was the change of the government in the Azerbaijan? So what do you create? This is hereditary authoritarian regime. So that's why, of course, you cannot speak about the democracy. So what we created in 2018, after the Velvet non-violent revolution, in Armenia held parliamentary elections, and that elections recognized as fair and democratic elections. They recognized by the international community, by the OSCE, PA, by ODIHR, by European Council, by everyone. And of course, maybe for you we are not the champions of democracy, but I think that it is very good, because to be champions of democracy in a meaning that you understand democracy, I think that it wouldn't be very good to be champions like that. So now about the human rights. Mr. Guliev, in this year in Luxembourg, we adopted our annual declaration of OSCE-PA, and you voted for that declaration. And in that declaration is fixed that Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, not conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan, but Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, which you try to distort every time. But our annual session and declaration fixed that Nagorno-Karabakh conflict should be resolved according to the principles of Helsinki Final Act, mainly non-use or threat of force, territorial integrity, and equal rights and self-determination of peoples. And you voted for that declaration. And now you say, and you reject the essence of human rights in the conflict. So you, by your rhetoric, and you contradict to your own actions. So what is that? I wonder what is that, and you say that you don't try to manipulate, don't try to mislead, etc., etc. I can speak by hours about this topic, but of course I will stop in this point. And again, I want to say I'm very sorry, dear colleagues, for this debate that you have to listen. But I think that we should also discuss very tough questions. But there is one thing which is very important. This conflict, Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, this isn't conflict about the territorial issue. This is conflict about the people, about their rights, and about their right to decide their own destiny. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Now I'd like to give floor for very short clarification to head of Greek delegation, and then we will start report of Chairperson of the Subcommittee on Rules of Procedures, Lord Peter Bonis.
Mr. President, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. Today, Turkey claimed that islands do not have the right to maritime zones on an equal footing with continental land masses. This is a very interesting comment which does not only apply to Cyprus. Our colleagues from Italy, Malta, United Kingdom and Ireland should learn that Sicily, Malta and the British Isles do not have the right to full maritime zones. Actually, Turkey's comment opens a totally new chapter in the international law of the sea. If Turkey does not want to listen to Cyprus and Greece, it is okay. We ask then Turkey once more to listen to France, Italy and the United States and to refrain from any unilateral drilling in the Cypriot exclusive economic zone. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for a really very short comment. And please, so with this, we will conclude this chapter of this agenda. And thank you to all speakers who intervened. And now I'd like to ask Peter Bonis to make his report.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. President. Can I thank you for promoting my slot on the agenda and apologize to you and to the rest of the members that I will have to leave before the end of the meeting. I wouldn't want to start my report without thanking our hosts from Morocco for their hospitality. Having said that, can I say that there are two specific matters relating to the rules about which I want to advise members, both of which arose from the meeting in Luxembourg. Let me emphasize that I'm not asking this committee to agree anything specific this afternoon. I wouldn't dream of asking you to agree something which you had not got in writing and translated where relevant. However, the first item is really a technical matter relating to Rule 21 and those additional supplementary items which are referred to. Members will know that the number of supplementary items are limited to 15. They have to pass the threshold of a 2/3 majority in the standing committee. And if there are more than 15, there is a ballot to choose. If, however, there are supplementary items with no amendments, they can go forward. An issue arose in Luxembourg. I frankly don't understand why, because I think the rules were quite clear, but the question was raised, do those supplementary items also need to have the 2/3 majority of the standing committee? The answer is quite obviously yes, and we will bring forward some additional words to put into the paragraph to make that absolutely clear. The second item which arose in Luxembourg, which has already been mentioned by our colleague from the Russian Federation, and that was the question of the quorum. I don't want to go into the issue which arose in Luxembourg, but it is quite clear that whatever the rights or wrongs of that situation, the rules of procedure are not clear. There are two problems with it, in my view. One, it gives an absolute discretion to the President, and I haven't got a problem with that, but I think it is an onus upon which something we should not put upon the President, and it does that without any definition of what we mean by a majority of the members. Do we mean a majority of the total members or the members who are actually present? I should just emphasize that when you look in the rules of procedure dealing with a quorum, it is only the plenary meetings where this problem arises. The situation regarding the Bureau, the Standing Committee, General Committees is quite clear. There is a possible solution, and that would be to follow the practice that the committee agreed and the Assembly agreed over... Sorry, I have a problem? All right. Sorry, forgive me, Mr. President. There is a possible solution, and that is to follow the procedure which was adopted over the validation of signatures. And at the beginning of any meeting, any sessions, the standing committee would review the number of registered members and declare a majority of that figure to be the number required for a quorum. Now, this has been discussed amongst the officers and the President's working group of the Bureau. Clearly, it is a matter which will have to go to a Rules Committee, which is in the process of being reformed, and that Rules Committee will be in a position to make a recommendation, I hope, to the Standing Committee in Vienna. In the meanwhile, if anyone has any thoughts about either of these matters, to which I have addressed myself this afternoon, I'd be grateful if they would communicate those thoughts as soon as possible to the International Secretariat. It is something, both these are matters which I hope we will agree by consensus. The object is to avoid unnecessary problems at the annual meeting in Vancouver. I think our colleague from the Russian delegation also referred to a review of the rules of procedure. I have to say, as the chairman of the Rules of Procedure, when we have a new Rules Committee in the longer term, we do clearly need to go through to see whether there are any hidden problems of which we are not currently aware, because we weren't aware of these problems which arose in Luxembourg this time. So a Rules Committee exercise to look at this properly is something which I would certainly support, and I hope that all interests will be represented on that committee. President, the remainder of my report today refers back to the report which went to the Standing Committee in Vienna in writing, and which I don't intend to go through in great detail. That report, however, did draw attention to the things which the Bureau in Milan had agreed last December in terms of making the most effective use of our times and meetings. And perhaps, if I may be allowed, because I'm sufficiently far away from anybody concerned, one of those things which were that all reports, where possible, should be in writing and circulated rather to save time at these meetings. But there were also another 8 items which it was agreed that the President's Working Group, and the history of that and how it was formed is also in that report, that working group, when reappointed, would look at these items, which are in the paper if you have them, or you can get it from the Secretariat, are numbered 1 to 8. And particularly, I think we want to be looking at how we can improve the impact of the declaration. People are concerned about the impact that our work has, or the lack of impact. And there is a suggestion that we could do some work to produce an executive summary rather than expecting everybody to be interested in however many pages the declaration turns out. We want to look at ways of how the committee works, including whether it would be possible, and this would involve the rule change, for committees to meet in this autumn session. Can the committees be used to make inquiries? Can the committees be used to receive the reports from special representatives or ad hoc committees? These are all things that we want to look at. We want to look at the best use that we make of the Bureau and Standing Committee, which it is felt by some there is a good deal of duplication and a very crowded agenda, and that maybe we need to review the roles of those 2 committees and see how one should work in connection with the other. And perhaps recognize that the Bureau, consisting as it does entirely of members elected either by the committees or by the Assembly as a whole, whether the Bureau should have a greater input into the actual policy and direction and appointments that may be made on behalf of the Assembly. Mr. President, I'm happy to answer any questions. I don't want to take any more of your time. I appreciate that the rules of procedure are not as exciting as many of the things that we've been discussing this afternoon, and I wouldn't for 1 minute pretend that they are necessarily as important. But on the other hand, we do need some sort of framework for our work and to how we organize our time. I thank you very much, Mr. President. Again, my apologies for having to leave before the end of this meeting in due course, and thank you for your attention for those who have been interested in what we're trying to do.
Thank you, dear Peter, very much. I'm very sorry, it was very loud, for flagging up these important issues. I think there are 2 requests from the floor. Irene Haralambidis from Cyprus and Christian Vigenin from Bulgaria. So please, Irene, and then Christian.
Thank you, Mr. President. This follows my intervention before the Standing Committee at our annual session in Luxembourg, I wish to bring up once again before the Standing Committee members my proposal to amend Rule 21, paragraph 2 of the Rules of Procedure. As I noted in July, the procedure provided for the Rule 21 seems quite problematic to me. I strongly believe that the choice between two or more supplementary items on the same matter should pertain to the Standing Committee, which anyway decides by vote which supplementary items should be included in the agenda, rather than be subjected to the logic of first come, first served. This logic, which certainly does not help small delegations, deprives Standing Committee members from their right of choice among political texts. In the same line, it should be possible for a compromise text to have more than one principal sponsors. I have already submitted to the Secretariat my proposal to amend paragraph 2 of Rule 21 for consideration by the Subcommittee on the Rules, eventually along with proposed amendments to the rules by other Assembly members or delegations in view of our next winter meeting in Vienna. At this stage, I would like to ask for your support to this amendment, whose aim is to ensure that the process for the submission of and decision on supplementary items presented on the same issue be fairer and more political. I don't think you want me to read out paragraph 2 as amendment. I can give it to you lately.
Okay, thank you. Christian Vigenin, please.
Thank you, President. First of all, I would like to say that I really appreciate the comprehensive approach of Lord Bonas on the amendments of the Rules of Procedure. We had the chance to discuss informally some of the ideas and shortcomings as well, and would like to mention that some changes will definitely be necessary, and it's right time in the Standing Committee to at least mention some of the most important that I find that are under discussion. First one, this is the role of the vice presidents. Unlike all other positions in the Assembly, including the president, vice presidents are elected for 3 years. The reason is that they have to ensure continuity of the work as well as consistency of the policy. And yet, for the moment, they have no individual responsibility or portfolio. And this is not something invented by the current president. It has always been the case in the past years as well. I say it because it's not something that is a criticism against the current president, just a concern about the work of the Assembly. I believe that this has to change, and they have to assume stronger role in the activity of the OSCPA, including as regards their representative power, as they are elected by the whole Assembly, as the President is elected. Second issue are the special representatives. Rules of procedure do not foresee such roles, such officers, and I ask Lord Bonas to consider regulations on appointing these special representatives and also their accountability. We have 9 elected vice presidents without portfolio, but already 10 special representatives on different policy areas. Some of them were referred to as special rapporteurs today by the President, but on the website they're still listed as special representatives. In reality, according to our rules, they can be only personal representatives of the President. Therefore, I underline that they cannot act on behalf of the whole Assembly, but on behalf of the President only. I'm not against having such positions. I just say that we need more clear rules about their appointment. In a nutshell, we have to regulate how special representatives or personal representatives or special rapporteurs are appointed. And third element, work of committees. Maybe this does not need necessarily a change of the rules, but the substantial work of our Assembly is done by the 3 policy committees. We need to strengthen their capacity and ability to work effectively. Therefore, I propose that we create the opportunity for them to meet during the autumn session as well, as it is the case with the Standing Committee, not by adding another day, but by limiting the parliamentary conference to 2 instead of 3 sessions. I have no time now to elaborate on the benefits of such arrangement, but we, together with some colleagues from our group, will elaborate more concrete and detailed proposals as well justification, and they will be sent to Lord Bonas and distributed before the winter session in Vienna, so that we can take them into account. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I just respond, Mr. President?
You'd like to respond, please.
Yes, just very quickly to say to Cyprus that yes, I am aware of the proposal, and I'm sorry that we haven't got a specific suggestion put to the Standing Committee this afternoon. The Rules Committee will look at it. The only two specifics are the things that were urgent for Vancouver. But I can rest assured that has not been forgotten, and the Rules Committee will look at it alongside a number of the other issues. To Christian, thank him for his support on some of the suggestions of better use of our time and committees, and many of the things I believe that he referred to are covered by my all-encompassing examining the role of the Standing Committee and the Bureau. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Well, thank you very much, dear Peter. Indeed, all the issues, I mean, quite a well-known that you mentioned today, and we're discussing it. Maybe some of them over the months. There are a little bit new ones, like issue related with quorum. I think we can decide over this issue. As far as we have instruments, we already set up the special framework for this, as you said, advisory group, which appeared to be quite instrumental before, the first part of our amendments, which we already made previously. Now this is an ongoing process, and we are, as you said, we will set up maybe a new, more functional committee which will revise the rules and give a recommendation. This committee will not decide over the issue, but make recommendations. I think it's not that difficult to define, for instance, the quorum. As you said, it only applies now, the problem a little bit applies, the clarification of this applies to the sessions and not to the other meetings, like a bureau or a standing committee. And I think that there are several proposals, but we need more simple ones. We never had, as I said before, problems with quorum, but it's, as you mentioned very rightly, for me also, for any president, it's not the great pleasure to announce quorum. Of course, it's not a fantasy of president. It's based on figures that, for instance, Secretariat will provide. But I think we need clarification of that, and I agree with you. We will continue to work on these issues and other issues too. When it comes to supplementary items, there are suggestions. And I think for the Bureau meeting in Bratislava, we'll be more prepared for that, for final decision maybe for Vienna Standing Committee. When it comes to other things, maybe they need clarification with the special representatives. There are two schools of thought, let's say, which I also, let's say, respect. And I had this idea to have maybe a special assignment to vice presidents. As far as we have 9 vice presidents, I've been 6 years vice president of this assembly. And I would like to say we're not very correct that not every of them, they have a special assignment. For instance, Alizart is a special representative in Mediterranean affairs. Margarita Cedervich is a special rapporteur on Nemtsov's issue. We have Azai Guliev, who is chairing Silk Road. So there are also a number of other let's say, vice presidents who are mostly, for instance, observing election, observing as heads and special representatives and so on. I don't want to have a lengthy, let's say, explanation for that, but I consider as a president that this setting to be more flexible with vice presidents, and vice presidents are people who are replacing president in different forums, to the chairing sessions and so on. So this is the appropriate setting. We can sit and talk how we could, let's say, more effectively use vice president's abilities if it's any any, let's say, desire, any offer, we should, and I personally will always accommodate to that. Another issue very shortly about special representatives. This is in our rules and procedures that President can appoint on a specific topic, on a specific, let's say, it's not specified the region, but it's a topic, a special representative. We are practicing that many years. I think it's a quite effective tool to engage, to, let's say, we're talking about the visibility all the time. Those are people who are working in the regions with the special topics and to an increasing visibility of this assembly and promoting what we are doing and sometimes making difference, even in specific regions, and even as a good example, the work of Alizard in the Mediterranean region. So we are open for discussions. Bureau is, and I fully agree that Bureau should be much more strong political and steering and leading structure in this assembly, defining strategic direction. So I think that's a good discussion. Thank you, Peter, very much. Staff is involved, Secretariat is involved. I think Roberto also will elaborate a little bit in his report. So let's go this way and try to improve all the working procedures that we have for much more effective work. So thank you very much once again. With this, I will close the chapter at this moment and then ask our new treasurer, Peter Juul-Hansen, to make his first presentation as a treasurer of Parliamentary Assembly.
Thank you. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, it was an honor to be elected as treasurer of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly at the Luxembourg annual session. It is my pleasure to report to you for the first time in my new capacity. I thank you again for your support, and I assure you that I will do my best to continue the work of my predecessors and ensure that the finances of the Assembly continue to be managed effectively. I would like to take this opportunity to thank and congratulate my predecessor, Doris Barnett, for her excellent and impressive work as treasurer. All of us unanimously supported the budget that Doris Barnett proposed for the financial year that started on the 1st of October, and I intend fully to support, implement, and continue the important path that she set up for us. Mr. President, I will be very brief as my mandate and our financial year has just started. In preparation for my work ahead, I had the opportunity last week to meet in Copenhagen with Secretary General Roberto Montella and his financial team in the Secretariat, Gustav Paladas, Marietta Semtek, and Stephen Paul. And I was thoroughly briefed about the financial situation and prospects of the Assembly, as well as of the upcoming events, including the external audit of our past financial year. Our external author in Copenhagen, Pernille Dupont, will soon start preparing the audit for the financial year 2018 and 2019 that just concluded. I will be able to report on the audit to the Bureau on the 4th of December in Bratislava, and in accordance with the rules of procedure, I will also report to you in Vienna at our winter meeting. I can advance that all the in advance say to you that we once again will be giving a positive assessment for our financial management. It is also a pleasure to advance that the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly continues to remain within our approved budget. Our full international budgetary and administrative autonomy with full independence from the OSCE structures makes us flexible, efficient, reliable, and responsive, and as an responsibility institution in distance from our budgetary problems faced yearly by the OSCE governmental side. I believe that the policy established by my predecessors and implemented by our Secretariat of strict international financial procedures, oversight by an elected treasurer, and outside independent audits provide to be efficient, reliable, and transparent. To conclude my first report as the Treasurer of the Assembly, I would like to take this opportunity to thank my own Parliament for its important financial contribution in providing the headquarters in Copenhagen. But I will also take this opportunity to thank the Australian government who provides assistance to our liaison office in Vienna. Without these contributions, together with the secondment of personnel by the governments of Italy and Germany, it would have been difficult to provide this service to all of you, but also to make sure that we stay within our budget while we can expand and concentrate on our activities. My gratitude also goes to all those members and partner parliamentarians who have hosted and will host the Assembly in the future. Again, I look forward to working with all of you during my mandate, and I am at your disposal for any questions and suggestions you might have. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you, dear Peter. If there are any questions to Peter's report? As we said, as his first report, I think it's a very good that's a good continuation of the work, and I think Peter will do a great job for this Assembly. I think Roberto Montella will very soon, give you a clear picture of what we are doing and why it's important with this significantly increased activities we need, not only keep our budget, but try to increase it, try to get, to find more innovative mechanisms to even get more extra budgetary, maybe funds, and there are some ideas. And Peter, thank you very much. Also thanking Danish government and Danish authorities, your parliament, helping Parliamentary Assembly over the course of the years. And wish you successful work. Your success as a treasurer, as the success of this Assembly, and a better work. So now I'd like to ask our Secretary General, Roberto Montella, to present his report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also want to join others in thanking the Kingdom of Morocco to host us here for the first time. I want to use this opportunity not to talk about all the activities that we have conducted from Luxembourg. I've written a report, it's been circulated a while ago, and we can get questions on this report. But I wanted to talk about first times. This is the first time that we have a meeting here, and it's also the first time that in a standing committee I would like to get from the members of the standing committee, those who are still here, some guidance and some projections on where the Assembly is going and where we are in this moment. So my reflection with you would be where we are now, where we should be, and I would like to get clear guidance on where we should be. So this is the first time we're having a meeting in Morocco. It's a great thing. But there are many other first things that happened in the last 4 years. For the first time, we have an ad hoc committee on migration. Lombardi, Isabel Santos, Lingerie have led this committee with great leadership. For the first time, we have a committee on the fight against terrorism. For the first time, we have special representatives dealing with digitalization, disinformation, corruption, NGO and civil society, of course, all the other special reps that were there before. For the first time, we've made changes in the agenda for the winter meeting so that there is more space for debate. For the first time, all the contributions of the budgets have come in. Before, Uzbekistan was not participating in our meetings, so we were missing the Uzbeks' contribution. Now we have full contributions in our budget. For the first time, the biggest number of participants in these meetings, in the annual session and in election observation missions have taken place. For the first time, the relations with the governmental side of the OSCE is excellent. We have a great relationship with the governmental side, with the chairmanship. We've had, for the first time, joint press releases of yourself, myself, the Secretary General of the governmental side, and the chairman in office, especially on Albania. This is unprecedented in the history of the OSCE, not the OSCE, but all the OSCE. For the first time, the President of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly speaks twice to the Permanent Council at the beginning of the year to set the priorities, and after the annual session to say to the Ministerial Council what are the desiderata of the members of Parliament. For the first time every week, if you read the news from Copenhagen, you will see every week there is a member of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, a Vice President, a Special Representative, who is either on the field or is either on the media or on record on issues of the OSCE. Committees, of course. For the first time, our relationship with the ODIHR and all the other partners on the elections are excellent. We have invited ODIHR colleagues to come to Copenhagen. We've done informal briefings, informal brainstormings with them. The relationship is excellent. Our leadership role is not disputed, and we work excellent. And to produce the final reports that we come up with are now more focused, and I think they better service the interest of the participating states where we observe. For the first time, we have adopted the comprehensive guidelines on election observation. Of course, I know the NBA has some concerns with the part of these guidelines. We will address them. But for the first time, we have a document also that looks at the accountability of members of parliament when they observe elections. For the first time ever, we have observed elections in Mongolia, in Germany, in Italy, and next December in Uzbekistan. For the first time, in February, we will sign an MOU with the United Nations Office Countering Terrorism, an MOU that is between our Secretariat for the Committee on Terrorism and the UN. For the first time, we have adopted the media strategy. We have a new application. I am going to go on, I know but I just, the reason why I'm giving you all this list is because to get to a point which will come soon. For the first time, we have financial rules and regulations that regulate how the International Secretariat should manage its finances. And the audit, the Treasurer just talked about the audit is now done against a background of financial rules and regulations we have to abide to, not simply to the words of the Secretary General. I mean, there is the auditor checks our accounts based on the rules that you have adopted. For the first time, we have staff rules. Our staff now has contracts and has modality on which they are employed by the Assembly. It's not a personal relationship between the Secretary General and the staff. For the first time, we've introduced a junior professional program last year. For the first time, we've signed an MOU with the Academy in Bishkek. And for the first time, we have secondments of staff. We have 3 Italians here. There are lots of Italians in the Secretariat, but they're paid by Italy, not by your budget. So for the first time, we have 3 secondments from Italy and 1 from Germany. And of course, if more countries want to second staff, they're welcome. And for the first time, all our OSCE staff is participating in trainings organized by the OSCE. Now, of course, we are all very proud of these results. I could have made this list before my re-election. Many people told me, but why are you making now the list? I mean, they've already re-elected you. What's the point of doing it now? You know, like you should have done it before in order to get support. But I'm not doing this list in order to get support, which I already got. And I think the best moment when you want to introduce reforms and ideas is when you have a longer-term perspective in front of you, which I do have now thanks to your support at the Standing Committee in Luxembourg. But the reason I am talking about this is because, of course, we are all very proud of these results. Those who have contributed to these results is, of course, the members, is, of course, all the special representatives, is a very active president, 24/7, always active on the OSCE agenda. And, of course, I will not fall into false modesty here, saying it's just others. Of course, I know that I have personally brought in some personal dynamics and personal contribution to these changes. But we are at the point now, Mr. President, where I need from this Standing Committee some guidance on what is the vision that the Assembly has to have and what is the kind of parliamentary assembly that you members, you are the leaders of this Assembly, what kind of parliamentary assembly you want. Until 2016, this Assembly used to have 3 statutory meetings, some election observation missions, and the president that would go from time to time to visit the country, a special rep would from time to time make a statement. There were, of course, some seminars, some activities. But in the last 3 years, we have come up with a plethora of activities in all possible issues, digital agenda, fake news, migration, terrorism, NGO and civil society, of course, all the 3 committees. So we are present on the entire spectrum of the agenda and of the main issues that are debated. So I think it's very important when you reach a very high level. I am a sportsman. I know that you can easily get to the top of the chart when you are underdog team. The problem is then to remain. You know, you can beat once Real Madrid in Bernabeu, but you have to win the Champions League for many years ahead. What I would like to avoid is that, you know, we have reached very high. We are having a very good level of performance, but then, you know, we cannot manage to keep up this high level. And we have managed to keep up this very good high level because the machine that supports all of this, the Secretariat, it's here, it's all here and few people who are behind the scenes making sure that the microphones work and the documents are on the table, and some colleagues in Vienna and Copenhagen who didn't come. But this is the International Secretariat. So in order to make all of these still sustainable, we have to be a little more creative of how we continue. We've managed so far because we have stretched a little bit our resources. Many people are happy with what we do in migration and in the fight against terrorism, but you see here Farima and Marco, who very often have been quoted in your committee meetings. They have self-invented themselves as experts in migration or in terrorism by, self-teaching themselves and providing support, ideas, speaking points, organizing meetings. But they are not experts in these issues. We do not have an expert on corruption. We do not have an expert in the Secretariat on the digital agenda or on fake news. It's colleagues that I have appointed that will make their homework, they will study, they will research and try to provide support to members. But I think what is very important is that the Standing Committee decides on what is the vision that you want for this Assembly. Do we want the Assembly as it was, or do we want it as it is now, but with, my advice would be, with some adjustments? And the adjustments, and this is what I would propose to the Standing Committee, is to a little bit rationalize and prioritize what we want to do. I think Lord Bonas talked about the role of the Bureau and the responsibility that the Bureau should have, but also the Standing Committee is the leading body of this Assembly. We should be able, maybe at the Bureau meeting at the beginning of the season, let's say, at the ministerial meeting, to set the priorities for the incoming year. So the Bureau should say to the Assembly and to the International Secretariat, the priorities are to work on terrorism, on migration, and on climate change. And the International Secretariat has an obligation to support whoever in the committees, the special representatives, the experts who are working on these issues to support those issues. But of course, if we want to maintain members working on other issues, the International Secretariat, to the extent possible that the resources allow, human and financial resources, the International Secretariat will come in and step up and support. But it must be very clear what is the priority that the Bureau, that the leadership gives to the International Secretariat. So I also have my own responsibility, of course, which is to streamline the resources that are currently available. And mind, I'm not complaining that I don't have enough human resources or enough money. You just increased our budget last July. So my idea is to, of course, streamline, and you will see in my report I've already made a little restructuring of the International Secretariat, thus servicing better this new trend that is in the Assembly. But I think it's very important that there is also the political backing to these actions that I'm about to take, and there should be also political backing to this new course that the Assembly is taking, and the Bureau should do this at the end of the year or the beginning of the new year. For the future, next year, talking about activities, we will probably have a record high number of election observation missions. Probably we will have 11 election observation missions next year in 2020. Tajikistan, Serbia, Belarus, Montenegro, Kyrgyzstan, Moldova, the US, Georgia, Azerbaijan, again Tajikistan presidential, and North Macedonia. This is all next year. In order to have an election observation mission, normally I send a need assessment mission. Andreas Baker is going next week to Tajikistan for 4 days with the ODIHR to do a need assessment mission. Then we go on a pre-electoral visit with the president. Then we send a mission, and sometimes we do a follow-up mission. If you multiply these 11 times, and the election department here is Andreas, Irina, and another person, and of course, all our staff providing support to an election observation. But in a year when you have 11 election observation missions, we either cut some elections or we cut some other activities, or we try to find some creative ways in order to support all these activities. I will leave it to you also to ask questions and to give me some guidance on this, but I don't want to end my statement before thanking 3 members that I know of who are leaving this assembly with this meeting, and probably at the concluding plenary tomorrow, they will also be recognized more in a more formal plenary. But I would like to thank Alan Farrell for his service in our assembly. Alan especially was important for my own start as Secretary General here by making sure that the financial rules that I later on introduced would be something very much bedrocked into documents that exist in the OSCE and the NATO Parliamentary Assembly. So thank you very much, Alan, for making sure that we stay very much on line with our finances. Nilsa Desena is also leaving our assembly. She's not running in the elections on this Sunday in Portugal. And Nahima Landry, she's leaving our assembly. She's she's still a member of parliament, but there will be another Belgium delegation, so she's leaving the Committee on Terrorism. And of course, I knew about that. And of course, Margareta Kenenilen will leave our assembly with this meeting, but she will still be involved in other meetings. So that's why, in Vienna, okay, in Vienna. So that's why. But thank you very much for these 3 members who have been important in our assembly, and we will try to give you a proper farewell tomorrow. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you, dear Roberto. I had in my agenda also to thank our members, to mention that we'll do it tomorrow, but of course, dear Alan, dear Nahima, and dear Nilsa. So you've been a great leaders and friends to all of us, and we hope that you will keep those ties with us. You promised that, and we wish you all the best. As I said, we will address this issue at the end of the session too. There are questions or some, yeah, please, Vice President Henriksson, she'd like to respond, please.
Yes. Thank you very much, President, and dear colleagues. I would like to commend you and your Secretary General for your continued activities and efforts to make the PR more visible. They strengthen the standing of our Assembly and make a difference to the way our recommendations are received by the OSCE executive structures. And we have done many things for the first time. That is very good. But we have also some goals we have decided upon for many years ago that is not going so well. And I would like to raise 2 aspects concerning gender equality in our Assembly. First, the gender imbalance in our panelists and in the representation from the International Secretariat in our plenary sessions. And second, the, as it is perceived, total lack of gender equality in our media outreach. The panelists at this autumn meeting are very poor regarding gender equality. In Luxembourg, the situation was approximately the same, and we cannot accept this. The OSCE PA in 2011 adopted a resolution on women's representation at the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, noting the poor gender balance and encouraging the improvement of this balance. I would also like to draw your attention to the gender balance report launched in Luxembourg by Dr. Hedy Fry, telling a similar story tale. I have counted the horrible low woman representation in our session during the last years, And I'm sorry to state that the occasions where the number of male and female panelists are equal are few and far between. That's my experience. If we are to enhance gender equality, the practice must end. Our goal must be equal gender representation when it comes to panelists and who is representing the International Secretariat at the high table. In a world where the most important positions, ministers, head of state, etc., still are held by men, it is paramount that there is a similar overrepresentation of women amongst the panelists and other participants. Now to our Assembly's new media strategy. We have improved our ability to convey what we are doing, which is very good, because media content shapes opinion, attitudes, and ideas. But when we look at what is presented in the photos of our activities and meetings, it is almost all about men. Active men, with a very few exceptions. The President talking to heads of state, government ministers, and other important interlocutors. It is great that the President meets these people and that it is communicated, no doubt about that. But if we are to be a gender-balanced organization, we need to ensure gender balance also here, and we need to be aware of that unbalance we find. And it is not only about counting the number of men and women. Gender equality in media is also about how women are presented in the media, about active and passive people in the photos. I have dived into Flickr albums from our last sessions and activities, and I'm sorry to say this, there are many active men and very, very few active women. If we are to solve this, we have to make sure the presidents meet women in power and with power on every journey and visit, and that this becomes a part of our equality and media strategy. I would encourage this Assembly to adopt similar standards as the Council of Europe on gender equality and media. And I will also propose, Mr. President, to ask you and the Secretariat to include and adopt in your reports a separate paragraph where our equality strategy is addressed, including concrete follow-up points and what is remaining. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Kari. I think, yeah, there are good points. We also respond, as I was mentioned also a few times, not a negative context and a positive, that's good, but I will tell you what I think. Another question? Okay, please, Roberto.
Thank you very much, Kerry, for raising the point. Of course, this is something that I have very much in mind. Just be aware that I have inherited a situation here, so it's not easy to transform the International Secretariat in a totally gender-balanced situation when the picture was not totally gender-balanced when I took over this position. But as far as I'm concerned, from the moment I took over this position, I have empowered some of the staff. For example, as soon as I started, I was the director of the presidential administration. I appointed a woman to this position as director of presidential administration. The election department was headed by Irina Sabashuk as soon as I came to this position. So I have appointed people in high positions as soon as I took over this position. But it will take time, until some let's say, turnover of staff happens, and then we will take on this. The good news is that we have recently hired a new staff from France, Stéphanie, a woman. We are in the process of hiring a media person. Most probably it will be a woman. So this will bring out numbers. Our current numbers are, out of 22, we have 7 women in the Secretariat. But I understand you were not talking about how the International Secretariat is conducting every day. You are mainly focused on this event here. And the picture speaks for itself, so I am not going to argue that it is indeed very imbalanced, but unfortunately not everybody was here. Yes, but the other important thing that I would like to I don't know if to take credit for, but having contributed, is the brighter picture in terms of leadership for election observation missions. We've done recently an analysis of how many members have been appointed, special representatives, special coordinators, and head of delegations, and then we have total gender balance, in some cases an imbalance in favor of women, which is, of course, a positive picture. But that is where we could influence, because there the International Secretariat makes suggestions of names to the leadership, and the leadership appoints, So on where we can, we have. But I mean, I cannot drastically overnight, say to some male, leave the room for some ladies in the Secretariat. Another point which I take on board is your request to have an equality strategy you meant in my regular report. That's definitely something we can do. I will have a sort of an update every time from the last meeting on where we are on gender balance in terms of of course, there is not such a vast turnover in the International Secretariat from meeting to meeting, but where we are in terms of appointment. Also, the recent appointments of special representatives were ladies. So we're working in that direction, but I absolutely have this issue very close to my heart, and I'll do everything I can from my perspective to implement that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roberto. I'd like also to respond, dear Kari, to your desire, let's say, to improve gender balance. I totally agree. This is like democracy. It's never enough. You need a real equality. We need that. And we are trying our best here. Of course, this picture is not a proof of that, but in previous maybe meetings we had more balance in favor of women. But just a few facts. And it's not just a justification that we are doing, our best. We can do better. I appointed 5 special representatives in 5 fields. Very important. Those people are leading this field. I'd like to just list it. 4 out of 5, there are women. Irena Karlampedidis, corruption representative and corruption issue. Miladenovic and digital agenda. Toril, she's sitting next to you, and Arctic issues. Pia Kauma in civil society. Only 1 rapporteur is Santolini. So out of 5, 4. I don't want to continue this list. The Nahima Landry, she's a head of, even for the Committee on Counterterrorism, to improve gender balance, I introduced, let's say, not a maybe big invention, but a novelty, to have a chair and co-chair for gender equality. And we will, of course, continue in this way. So when it comes to our photos, we can discuss it, but I'm sure that with the photos, which is photos of me as a president, there are maybe a number of other women too, and with the Secretariat we'll try to also improve that visibility for our very capable women. So it's not that picture that we should severely criticize that, and you did not raise this issue in that context, but I think improvement is always very good, and I think we will accept, which is a critical, what we can do as a President, the Secretary General, and there are facts, and Roberto was absolutely right. If you will see how we're appointing, for instance, heads of delegations or special coordinators, the leaders of the election observation with a very high mandate, I think here women prevail. So maybe there are rooms to improve, and we thank you for these sincere comments and your desire. So if there are any other questions, dear colleagues, to Roberto? No. So it's not the case. Just to add something. Thank you very much, Roberto. Thank you, all the staff. Of course, we are now in extraordinarily, let's say, busy with the different topics, and Roberto told you about this. What to do, how to proceed. I don't think that it's a demand of this assembly is to slow down very much or transform this assembly in an organization which convenes 2 or 3 times a year. It's not the case. So we have to keep the pace, we have to be active, and of course I told you many times, the environment around us, the political situation around us, the current existential problems that we are facing, starting with the terrorism, migration, conflicts, climate change, it requires from parliamentarians, from people who are elected to be active, to be on the spot, to respond to this. We are doing that, nothing more. It's no personal agendas here. So with this, of course, we need more resources, staff need more support, and that's why I'd like to ask Roberto and, of course, our new treasurer and any other ideas to find out maybe some new ways for funding, to interact with reliable donors, to get more maybe extra budgetary funds, because many organizations doing that, we are not doing that, so maybe it's also the way to increase our capabilities and to respond to the issues which are of utmost importance, and parliamentarians would like to do that. So please, maybe for the Bureau meeting, you could have a concept of that, how we can proceed better, how we can generate more capabilities. But at this stage, I'd like to thank you very much, Roberto, for your great work, and all the Secretariat for your loyalty to the principles of this organization and a great service to the parliamentarians. Thank you. So now, where we are. Now we are at the point of the reports of information activities of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. So it's election observation missions. It was one mission since our session in Luxembourg. It was Ukraine parliamentary elections. However, an absence of leadership, I think, of this mission will be reported during our standing committee meeting in Vienna in February. Roberto already informed you about forthcoming election observation. And of course, we have to prioritize because it's impossible, to cover everything. Even, for instance, for this year, there were several important elections in Poland, in Austria, in Switzerland, but there were no, let's say, resources for that. That's why we prioritize Belarus and Uzbekistan in November 17 and 22, respectively. On this, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Chers et chers collègues, permettez-moi quand même de faire 2 remarques sur le rapport sur l'observation des élections parlementaires en Ukraine, parce qu'en Ukraine, il y aura des élections locales, des 2 côtés probablement. Et donc, je me permets de vous faire part de mes remarques. J'étais déployée pour cette observation des élections parlementaires en Ukraine à Mariupol avec Kyriakos Haidjiannis. Et 2 remarques. D'une part, le rapport qui nous est soumis, probablement rédigé par l'ODIHR, il contient quelques imprécisions. Lorsqu'il dit, par exemple, et je le cite en anglais, dans ses conclusions préliminaires, as a consequence, the elections could not be organized in Crimea and certain parts of Donetsk and Luhansk Oblast that are controlled by illegal armed groups. Alors, le problème, c'est encore reflété plus tard dans le rapport final donc, que vous souhaitez traiter seulement à Vienne, Monsieur le Président. Le problème que nous avons cerné, Monsieur Haidjiannis et moi, dans la région de Mariupol, où nous étions déployés, c'est que nous avions récolté des réactions très fâchées, très concernées de la part de citoyennes et citoyens des municipalités le long, à proximité, disons, à proximité de la ligne du front, mais à l'ouest, donc dans le territoire contrôlé par contrôlé et formellement contrôlé par le gouvernement d'Ukraine. Il a été porté à notre connaissance que dans 15 municipalités à l'ouest de la ligne du front, que dans la région de Mariupol, c'est-à-dire dans l'oblast d'Donetsk, il n'y a pas eu des urnes. Les autorités locales également, les autorités élues locales sont très concernées par rapport aux élections qui vont se tenir à l'avenir. Bon, maintenant, heureusement, le processus de la mise en œuvre des accords de Minsk est en cours. Heureusement, donc, espérons que ces régions seront démilitarisées et pacifiées d'ici la tenue des prochaines élections locales. Je parle à l'ouest de la ligne du front, où elles auront certainement lieu en 2020. Mais il reste à faire très attention et à entamer le discours avec les nouvelles autorités, avec la nouvelle délégation ukrainienne ici, afin que toutes les municipalités qui ne sont pas concernées par des difficultés de sécurité le jour, le dimanche de l'élection, afin que des élections puissent être tenues dans toutes les parties concernées. Je parle maintenant à l'ouest de la ligne du front. Parce que si ces municipalités seraient à nouveau dépourvues de la faculté d'organiser des élections, ça veut en même temps dire que la population de l'Est de la ligne du front ne franchira pas pour faire les élections. Deuxième remarque, Monsieur le Président, s'il vous plaît. Deuxième remarque. Il a été fait une coopération.
Yeah, please, but Margaret, just to say a few words, because we will have, I'm sorry for interrupting you, just to inform that in 10-15 minutes we will have no interpretation.
Oui,
so just to, please,
oui,
please.
Oui,
I just informed.
Deux phrases, Monsieur le Président.
Yeah, please, go.
Il y a eu donc une présidence très souveraine de notre collègue Seren Moborgne de notre observation de l'AP-OSCE. Je l'en remercie et je l'en félicite. Par contre, il y a une alliance, coopération certaine avec l'Assemblée parlementaire de l'OTAN. Je représente ici une délégation d'un pays neutre qui n'est pas allié à l'OTAN. Pour l'avenir, nous voudrons sérieusement demander à ce que les observations des élections futures que l'AP-OSCE entreprend, et il y en a beaucoup, comme le secrétaire général vient de nous citer en 2020, s'il vous plaît, l'AP-OSCE doit s'abstenir de coopérer avec l'AP de l'OTAN, qui représente une tout à fait autre alliance et qui a un tout autre fondement historico-militaire que notre Assemblée parlementaire. Alors ça, c'est une demande de la part de la délégation suisse ici. Merci d'en prendre bonne note.
Marguerite, j'aimerais immédiatement répondre à cette question parce que nous, on a un accord avec les délégations du Conseil de l'Europe, de l'OTAN et du Parlement européen, et où on va ensemble, où il y a une élection. Si ils veulent envoyer une délégation, on observe les élections ensemble. Les membres qui arrivent, d'habitude, n'arrivent pas avec une agenda. Et ça, c'est un des codes of conduct qu'on a fait aussi dans notre Assemblée. C'est des membres des parlements qui appartiennent à cette délégation, mais ils n'arrivent pas là avec une agenda de l'OTAN quand ils observent les élections. C'est des membres des parlements qui observent les élections. Et nous, le rapport qu'on rédige, c'est un rapport rédigé sur la base du Copenhagen Document. Donc tous les membres, même les membres qui viennent de l'OTAN, il y a des membres ici qui sont membres de la délégation de l'OSCE, mais aussi membres du Conseil de l'Europe et des fois de l'Assemblée parlementaire de l'OTAN. Mais leurs travaux sont faits sur la base du Copenhagen Document. Mais pour nous, c'est difficile de dire aux collègues de l'OTAN qui, s'ils viennent en Ukraine, par exemple, ou dans notre pays, pour une fois, on ne va pas collaborer avec eux, on va leur demander de faire une mission séparée. Parce que aussi, en ce qui concerne toute la logistique et le soutien qu'on obtient de l'ODIHR, c'est un package qu'on obtient tous ensemble, de toutes ces délégations ensemble. Donc, j'espère que cette nouvelle n'est pas une mauvaise nouvelle.
Okay. Thank you very much. We are very short on time, dear friends. Just because of the topic which Margareta raised on Ukraine, very short remark, please, Arthur, because we can't then listen to other colleagues. They're right. Very short.
Dear Mr. President, dear colleagues, just very short remarks. Security and the lives of people is the priority number one for Ukraine, for Ukrainian government, and for Ukrainian people. That's why, really, because of the permanent challenge in several locations on the front line, it was impossible to organize election process. And everybody knows that keys out of this security is not in Kyiv. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we'd like to ask ad hoc committees on their reports. You will know that during the summer meeting, I've appointed Rabbi Daja from Norway and Lisa Chambers from Ireland to serve as the co-chairs of the ad hoc committee, counter-terrorism, following the appointment of Makis Voridis to a ministerial post in Greece. So I have also made several other appointments in the committee, and I'd like to give floor to Lisa Chambers, co-chair of this committee, counter-terrorism, to report on the work in previous months. Please, Lisa, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Secretary-General and esteemed colleagues. I am honoured to address you here today as the co-chair of the Ad Hoc Committee on Countering Terrorism and to inform you about our recent and future events. On behalf of our committee chair, Abid Raja, as well as all of the other CCT members, I would like to assure you of our unwavering determination to build further on the important work we have managed to achieve so far. I would also like to pay tribute to our former chair, Makis Voridis, whose vision and commitment enabled the CCT to become what it is today, a renowned and respected international actor in the field of countering terrorism and violent extremism. Under his leadership over the last few years, our Assembly has engaged in several impactful initiatives and consolidated its partnership with the OSCE executive structures, relevant agencies in the UN, and other interparliamentary bodies, bringing increased visibility to the important role of parliamentarians in this field. Through targeted initiatives and strategic partnerships, we have strived to boost the security of the citizens we represent. I am deeply committed to further these efforts and continue to add value. During our last session in Luxembourg, our Assembly had adopted a very important and comprehensive resolution on the challenges related to returning and relocation of foreign terrorist fighters, FTFs. This issue represents a major challenge for many countries in the OSCE area, and our resolution provides a strong framework to successfully address it. Remarkably, while the OSCE governmental side has failed to meet consensus on this very topic last year, we have adopted this document unanimously. While we might be divided into 57 national delegations and various political affiliations, at the end of the day, we are all united in addressing the threats stemming from terrorism. We are now in the process of assisting and asserting possible follow-up work with relevant partners to strengthen the global response to the FTF challenge. Furthermore, while discussing the challenges related to returning and relocating foreign terrorist fighters, other major questions arose. Notably, we started to debate within our committee the topic of repatriation of terrorist fighters and of their wives and children and partners, which we intend to study more in depth in the coming months. During its 5th meeting in Luxembourg, the final report of the PA initiative to promote the implementation of relevant international commitments on strengthening border security and information sharing. This was presented to the CCT. The committee, through the work of expert consultation, reviewed the feedback received from 21 national parliaments on the level of implementation of international obligations on advanced passenger information API and passenger name record PNR and biometrics. There were a number of countries also that posed questions but did not receive answers, and these are not contained within the report. Allow me to remind you that these data management systems are critical to prevent and counter the movement of terrorism across national borders. The final report conveniently highlights key challenges and promising practices in this field, as well as some policy recommendations for the attention of the OSCE participating states. During the summer, we have turned this report into a fully fledged OSCE PA publication, which was presented at our 6th meeting held yesterday in Marrakech. We intend now to widely distribute this material among our partners and openly debate its findings with our Assembly next February in Vienna. I encourage all of you to become familiar with it. This project is a prime example of how our Assembly can build on its members' oversight powers, support the international implementation of international commitments, and pragmatically contribute to the fight against terrorism and violent extremism. Furthermore, we are planning on organising a committee visit to Norway in the coming months, so that our Assembly may learn more about Norway's counter-terrorism policies. The visit will focus on the topic of violent extremism, and it will give all members an opportunity to learn more about how the Norwegian society responded to the terrorist attack of the 22nd of July 2011, led by Anders Breivik, which resulted in the death of 77 individuals, the deadliest attack in Norway since World War II. We are also cooperating closely with the OSCE executive structures, in particular by supporting the development of a project proposal aimed at strengthening the role of parliamentarians in responding to violent extremism and terrorism and offering technical support to national parliaments as required. In November, the Chair will travel to Vienna to consult with the OSCE counter-terrorism colleagues on future joint efforts and to update the participating states on our latest achievements, namely our resolution on foreign terrorist fighters and the final report on the PA initiative on border security and information sharing. These privileged channels of communication with our executive structures are important and should remain wide open. In conclusion, Chair, please allow me to reiterate my personal gratitude for your trust, Mr. President and Mr. Secretary-General, and also to Marco Bonabello and the Secretariat for their continued work and support, without which we would not be able to do our work. The goal was and remains utterly clear: advancing the contribution of our Assembly in countering terrorism and violent extremism for the benefit of all of our communities and our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear Lisa, and thank you very much for your leadership and very, very effective work. You and Abid, I think, will be a very good group of leaders who will make a really difference in this field. Thank you very much. And next will be Nahima Alanjri, but just a correction in our agenda. Because we will not have interpretation after 10 minutes, maybe 5-10 minutes. Here is San Marino delegation who have to speak in Italian, so I'd like to give them floor for a short announcement and then we will continue. Please.
Sì, la ringrazio Presidente. Noi volevamo semplicemente annunciare, invitare le delegazioni alla sessione autunnale del 2020 che si svolgerà a San Marino. Non era così scontato riuscire a organizzare un evento così gravoso per un piccolo paese come il nostro e certo questo risultato non si sarebbe potuto raggiungere senza il grande lavoro di coordinamento che c'è stato fra il segretariato, la nostra delegazione e il Dipartimento Affari Esteri della Repubblica di San Marino, quindi voglio ringraziare tutte le persone che negli ultimi mesi hanno lavorato per rendere concreta questa possibilità. A San Marino si terranno elezioni generali a dicembre Il Parlamento in questo momento è di fatto dimissionario, quindi ho dovuto sospendere, spero temporaneamente, la mia attività come rapporteur su disinformazione e propaganda, e non siamo certi che sia proprio questa la composizione della delegazione che vi accoglierà quando arriverete nella Repubblica più antica del mondo. Siamo sicuri che chiunque lo farà sarà all'altezza di un'organizzazione così importante come la parlamentare OSCE, in cui paesi come San Marino, che sono portatori di valori ma non di interessi economici rilevanti o di interessi geopolitici particolari, hanno un ruolo chiave, come spesso il Presidente ricorda. Noi speriamo che tutte le delegazioni possano essere presenti ai lavori di ottobre 2020 e godersi qualche giorno nel nostro piccolo paese e magari avere anche la possibilità di approfondire parte della sua storia unica al mondo. Quindi grazie per questo piccolo inciso e arrivederci a tutti, spero, a San Marino 2020.
Thank you very much. Dear Luca, grazie mille. We are looking forward to come to San Marino and enjoy not only nice views, but also important debates there. It's a great contribution. Thank you, all your delegation here, for your leadership in this direction. Now, I'd like to announce Naima Lantri, who is head of our Migration Committee. Please, Naima, the floor is yours.
Cher Président, chers collègues, je voudrais tout d'abord remercier nos hôtes marocains pour leur accueil chaleureux et pour l'excellente organisation de cette réunion historique, parce que c'est la première fois qu'elle est tenue en dehors de l'espace géographique de l'organisation. La commission ad hoc pour la migration qui s'est réunie ce midi à Marrakech ici a profité de cette occasion pour apprendre plus sur la politique migratoire du Maroc, un pays qui, comme vous le savez, est le point de départ principal des flux migratoires au long de la route occidentale menant à l'Union européenne par le biais de l'Espagne. Cette route devient même la principale route empruntée par les migrants en 2018, avec presque 60 000 arrivées en Espagne, originaires principalement de l'Afrique subsaharienne, mais aussi du Maroc. Ce que vous ne savez peut-être pas, c'est que le Maroc est aussi devenu de plus en plus un pays de destination, et ceci suite aux efforts du gouvernement marocain menés en coopération avec le gouvernement espagnol et grâce à l'aide de l'Union européenne pour contenir ces flux migratoires. Ainsi, cette année, en 2019, l'Espagne enregistra une chute importante de 50% des flux migratoires irréguliers. Nous avons écouté aujourd'hui le directeur des affaires de la migration de la ministère concerné. Et il nous a présenté la politique nationale marocaine dans le domaine de l'immigration et de l'asile, ainsi que les mesures qu'a prises le Maroc pour régulariser la situation des migrants en situation irrégulière et promouvoir aussi leur intégration ici au Maroc. Un représentant de la mission de l'Organisation internationale pour les migrations au Maroc a aussi élaboré à propos des activités de soutien au retour volontaire et la réinsertion des migrants. Ces débats entrent aussi dans la lignée des activités récentes de la Commission ad hoc pour la migration. Nous avons en effet cherché à générer un débat sur les bonnes pratiques dans le domaine de l'intégration, mais aussi ainsi que dans la politique de retour des personnes n'ayant pas eu le droit de l'asile. Et la Commission a effectué aussi l'année passée plusieurs visites sur le terrain. On a eu des visites en Belgique, mais aussi en Suède et au Danemark. Et à Luxembourg, l'Assemblée a aussi adopté notre résolution sur une gouvernance efficace des migrations fondée sur la promotion de sociétés inclusives et de retour dignes. Cette résolution met en avant un certain nombre de recommandations et encourage aussi tous les membres ici présents et les pays de l'OCDE à baser leur politique de retour sur le principe volontaire si possible et forcé si nécessaire. En même temps, elle souligne, cette résolution, l'importance de poursuivre aussi des politiques d'intégration globale pour faire en sorte que les personnes auxquelles a été accordé le droit de séjour ou le statut de réfugié, qu'ils soient aussi pleinement intégrés en vue de construire des sociétés ouvertes à tous, tant au bénéfice des migrants que des sociétés d'accueil. J'encourage les pays membres de l'OSCE à mettre en œuvre les recommandations de cette résolution et de prendre des initiatives en coopération avec les partenaires tels que le Maroc et les autres partenaires aussi pour faire face aux défis migratoires. Et je crois que là, il existe une tâche très importante pour tous les membres ici présents de défendre aussi cela dans leurs parlements nationaux. Lors de notre réunion, nous avons aussi discuté des activités à venir. Nous espérons pouvoir faire une visite prochainement avec donc, la nouvelle l'enclave espagnole de Ceuta pour voir aussi comment ils effectuent les procédures de retour des migrants, comment est leur politique sur les mineurs non accompagnés et la coopération frontalière entre le Maroc et l'Espagne. C'est très important. Et pendant la session annuelle à Vancouver au juillet de l'année prochaine, il nous sera aussi possible d'avoir l'occasion d'en apprendre plus sur la politique migratoire canadienne, une politique d'intégration qui est fondée sur des programmes de parrainage privé pour les réfugiés. La Commission a aussi discuté de la croissance importante des flux migratoires en Grèce, mais aussi en Turquie et aussi en Europe, comme il y a des problèmes, par exemple, en France, à Calais et à Dunkerque. Finalement, chers collègues, je voudrais aussi dire, comme le Président l'a déjà dit, c'est pour moi un moment peut-être un peu émouvant parce que c'est la dernière fois que je serai ici parmi vous. Je suis très contente d'être ici en tant que présidente de la délégation belge et dans le pays où mes parents sont nés, ici. Mais ceci marque aussi la fin de ma présidence de la délégation belge, mais aussi la fin de la délégation comme présidente de la Commission, puisque, donc, bien que je suis réélue, il y aura une autre délégation belge bientôt, donc au mois de février. Mais je vous souhaite une bonne continuation de votre travail au sein de cette commission, mais aussi au sein de l'Assemblée parlementaire de l'OSCE. Merci.
Thank you very much. It was really your last report in this capacity, and once again, thank you very much for a great job and the leadership and friendship and collegiality we show. And we wish you all the best in your next endeavors, and keep ties with us, as we always say. Now another special representative, Pascal Alizard, but maybe Pascal, you say a few words, and then as we agreed, you know, because they're a special person here and a special rep in the Mediterranean, but because of no interpretation, maybe we can change the setting, because others will speak English. Yeah.
Oui, Monsieur le Président. Simplement, très rapidement, remercier à nouveau nos hôtes marocains, rappeler que le Forum méditerranéen, hier, s'est particulièrement bien passé avec de très nombreuses contributions et je remercie nos contributeurs. Et je voulais rappeler, mais vous l'avez dit vous-même il y a quelques instants, le déplacement que nous allons effectuer dans quelques semaines en Égypte pour, là aussi, tisser des relations plus étroites avec un partenaire important du bassin méditerranéen. Je vous ferai un rapport plus complet cet hiver à Vienne, Monsieur le Président. Merci.
Thank you, dear Pascal, for a great contribution to this Mediterranean Forum and your activities as a special representative. So, thank you once again, Jan. Now I'd like to thank to our interpreters and please applaud to them for very good job for today. We'll continue tomorrow and there will be several interventions but in English. Now I'd like to ask Special Representative on maybe tomorrow, Niels. It's better tomorrow, I think. Now, another speaker will be Toril Etheim, Special Representative on Arctic issues. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President, Secretary General, and dear colleagues. I'm proud that the OSCE EPA has chosen an active role in Arctic-related issues, that we have acknowledged this as our common challenge by bringing the discussions into this assembly. Right now, climate is the main topic in Arctic. We can choose to look at can we choose to look at climate changes as a challenge rather than a crisis? We know the survivor of a true crisis is the one holding on to the hope. The future deserves hope. Hopelessness breeds helplessness. For sure, we're facing a dramatic situation, but why should Arctic issues be of any interest for the Moroccan MP? The world's cooler, the Arctic, is set on defrost. International cooperation is needed to solve climate changes. What we see in the high north are serious environmental, security-related, and also social challenges, including specific challenges for the people living there. On the other hand, the changes we are witnessing are also creating new opportunities for economic development in the region. With this, the Arctic, the high north, is starting to take a great political and also economic significance, not only to those of us who live in the high north, but also to the OSCE region, including Northern America and Central Asia as a whole. The challenges for the Arctic region are geopolitical, environmental, and also economic. They are also human rights related, and they extend across all the dimensions of human security that we in the OSCE works on. The world is experiencing changes that have taken us by surprise. It is inevitable that the impact has been negative. I believe in the strength of our cooperation here in the OSCE EPA, and history shows that this bond can be used wisely to prevent conflicts. It can also be used to prevent the negative impact of the climate changes. The engagement shown here in Marrakech is really promising. I would like to sum up by quoting a Norwegian journalist, Trine Eilertsen. The despair we see in the climate change debate is well funded. Too few countries are making their best effort. Our world is heading steadily towards increasing temperatures that will change the way of living for generations. The lack of action is a danger, but the experience of hopelessness is an even bigger danger. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear Joril. Wish you success in your important work. We've been in Arctics in your region, and we know all the important circumstances and situation there. So it's really worthy work that you will do in future for the sake of our environment in Arctics. Now, we have 3 more speakers. Also, we have a request. We had a request of the 3rd committee chair, Mr. Hadjivanis, and now I'd like to give him floor for the statement if he wants. It could be also, you can do it tomorrow if you'd like, I don't know, it's up to you. And then 2 other special representatives.
I will do it today, Mr. President. So in December for last year, also May and July this year, the OSCPA Committee on Democracy, Human Rights and Humanitarian Questions, represented by Margarita Kinneler and I, realized a field mission to Ukraine aiming at gathering factual information about the consequences of the ongoing war. First of all, we have to confirm our support to Ukrainian sovereignty for the whole territory of Ukraine. The mission served the purpose of bringing visibility regarding the engagement of the OSCPA in addressing the consequences of the ongoing war from a humanitarian perspective, with a special focus on the mining, exchange of prisoners, internally displaced persons, freedom of movement of civilians and missing persons. All interlocutors welcomed the OSCPA's involvement in Ukraine and commended the committee's effort to bring a distinct contribution to addressing the humanitarian consequences of the conflict. The deployments of the mission to Mariupol, Kramatorsk, Stanitsa Luhanska, and adjacent areas were professionally organized and supported by the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission to Ukraine, SMM. The 3rd committee realized its 3rd visit on 22nd, 23rd of July this year in the war zone in the southeast, in the area, Donetsk Oblast area near Mariupol. We met the SMM units with whom we visited the urban areas. All security measures which were necessary were taken. SMM body works very professionally and observes the opponent's daily actions in every detail. Once again, we emphasize that SMM people, about 700, need to know decisions regarding the expansion of the SMM's mandate in a timely manner. Therefore, as stressed in our resolution adopted in Luxembourg, the financial budget must be completed on time. We visited local authorities within the disengagement zone. People within this zone suffer because they experience war daily. War has become a part of their lives. Large numbers of people have left the area. Older people are suffering from lack of basic infrastructure. During our visit to kindergartens, we witnessed the drama of school shootings. Many houses are seriously damaged. The outlook for business or employment is minimal. Mine clearances in the area is still weak, and implementing the mining programs require both time and money also. In view of the forthcoming local government elections, the Ukrainian authorities need to ensure that these elections be held in a fair, free and correct manner. War cannot be a reason for these people's representatives not to be democratically elected. There is a need to maintain direct representation on a daily basis in war-affected areas. Any appointment by the state of representatives of the local government is not in the right direction. We also had meetings with representatives of non-governmental organizations who inform us about the human rights situation in the region. The UN reports describe in detail human rights violations. However, conflict rage and people continue to suffer, as reported by the UN Human Rights Monitoring Mission or the OSCE SMM. The continuing dialogue in Minsk is welcome. We support this dialogue and call on the parties to intensify it even more. This is the only source of communication between the opposite parties and is also the only existing opportunity to deal with humanitarian issues affecting people's lives in the crisis area. Recent tangible moves to ease tensions, such as the exchange of prisoners and hostages, as well as the beginning of disengagement at Stanica Luhanska, are good news, as they indicate that the required contours may hopefully end bloodshed. At the same time, missing persons are a tragic aspect of the war and a great drama of their families who do not know whether they are dead or alive. The parties need to immediately take steps forward without delay to determine the fate of the missing. Acting promptly is utmost important. Progress to this day does not satisfy us. Any debate on how to implement the Minsk agreement must place first Ukrainian suffering on both sides of the contact line. In order to secure their lives and their livelihoods and thereby to protect fundamental rights and freedoms, the sides must withdraw the heavy weapons, disengage and demine. This must be made in a variable manner and along the entire contact line. Other agreed security measures must be implemented with no further delay. Very short briefing on other activity of the third committee is in Warsaw. In the framework of the program of HDIM, we organized a side event focused on priority human rights recommendations from OSCE parliamentarians. President Tsereteli and I have presented an overview of the recent work of the Assembly in the human dimension, followed by a commentary of the director of ODIHR and also by Philip Dam from Human Rights Watch. The event provided a useful opportunity to discuss priority in the field of human rights promotion and particularly to seek input on the assembling its work from civil society and others. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, dear Kyriakos. We hope you will continue your active work, this direction in the field. And now I'd like to ask Pia Kauma, followed by Irene Charalambidis. Please, Pia, our special rep, civil society engagement.
Mr. President, dear colleagues, I have quite recently been appointed special representative for civil society engagement. Why this post has been created is based on our resolution from Luxembourg this year, more precisely paragraph 25A, where it is suggested that OSCE Parliamentary Assembly consider designating a representative among its delegates to serve with secretarial support as a focal point for public engagement. The Luxembourg resolution sets us objectives for what we want to achieve when working together with non-governmental organizations. I would like to thank President Tsereteli for entrusting me this important position. However, in order to succeed, I also need your ideas on which would be the biggest problems related to civil society to tackle in your own country or some other country in the OSCE area, my dear colleagues. A few weeks ago, I participated in the OSCE Human Dimension implementation meeting in Warsaw, together with President Tsereteli and Third Committee Chair Hadiani. There I had a chance to meet with a number of NGOs. It was encouraging to hear that many of them were very pleased about the creation of this role. A shared concern for all of them is that the space for civil society organizations is shrinking, and that this is happening all over the world. I think that this is really necessary to give the NGOs a possibility to be better heard among OSCE parliamentarians. This way we can better address their issues of concern and achieve genuine progress. Political prisoners, torture, especially in prisons, domestic violence, the non-existent possibility of journalists to write about their current governments, lack of freedom of assembly, just to name a few. These are some of the current violations of human rights. Much of the work I do is complementary to the work of other special representatives as well as committee officers. Therefore, I especially look forward to discussing with you on how we could perhaps join forces and achieve something together. Once again, thank you, dear colleagues, for your support for me in this new capacity, and I look forward to our future cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Pia. Wish you all the success. It's very important to work with the NGOs, and we are fulfilling our, let's say, pledge and promise to open doors of this assembly for many civil society organizations. Now, our special representative of fighting corruption, Irene Charalambidis, and then will be another speaker. We will conclude with this. Our special rapporteur on Nemtsov's issue, Margareta Zaderfeld. Please, Irene.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I would like to thank you personally for my appointment as Special Representative on Fighting Corruption. I will do, of course, my utmost to meet your expectations. I would like to say a few words about my recent visit to Vienna and some future steps, of course. Since the OSCE PA is a platform of 57 parliaments, which can promote the adoption of new legislations and ensure implementation of international treaties against corruption, we initiated cooperation with the relevant international stakeholders so that we can come back to the OSCE PA with concrete proposals for you to consider. On 17th and 18th of September, I was in Vienna. I had a number of meetings with representatives of the United Nations and the OSCE in the context of my mandate to strengthen partnership with the OSCE executive structures and relevant international stakeholders. I had the opportunity to meet with the Executive Director of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, as well as with the Director of the Economic Crime Branch. They both expressed their interest and readiness to develop a cooperative relationship with the OSCE PA, as well as with national parliaments, particularly in the context of the implementation review mechanism of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. I think that this might be a new avenue for cooperation, quite an important one for that matter. Additionally, we discussed several upcoming high-level policy events which will be organized by the United Nations and which could provide the necessary momentum in order to prioritize the combating of corruption in the agenda of the international community. Furthermore, I met with the current and the incoming chairmanship of the OSCE in order to hear firsthand how the PA and the executive structures can cooperate and coordinate as closely as possible regarding corruption. Therefore, I met with representatives of the permanent mission of the Slovak Republic to the OSCE. Following the meeting, I will participate to an important seminar organized in Bratislava this month, which focuses on anti-letterbox legislation. It's an act establishing and regulating a register of public sector partners in order to improve transparency in public procurement and traceability on public funds. You will be briefed about the seminar on our following meeting. I also met with the head of the permanent mission of Albania to the OSCE. I was very glad to hear that the Albanian chairmanship will include corruption among its top priorities in 2020. This, I believe, will allow us to enhance further our partnership and could provide added visibility to any PA event on this issue. I also met with the chairperson of the OSCE Economic and Environmental Committee, the director of the Office of the Coordinator for Economic and Environmental Activities, and the director of the Office of the OSCE Secretary General. I was informed about the work that is being carried out regarding corruption, the several projects that are well underway, and concrete initiatives through which parliamentarians could add value in this field. Now, as a next step, a new visit is already being planned by my dearest friend Marco Bonabello. I will be having contacts with Council of Europe's Greco and Manival and other relevant international stakeholders. All of these organizations carry out very important work in the field of anti-corruption and money laundering, and I will seek to exchange views with them also on the important role that parliamentarians and the OSCE PA can play in this field, because currently these organizations mostly deal with other stakeholders in drafting their reports and carrying out their work. And now, my dearest colleagues, an exciting announcement. Okay, those of you who believe that combating corruption must be among our priorities will have a very good excuse to visit the island of Cyprus, especially the area where Aphrodite was born. The Cyprus House of Representatives will be hosting an OSCE PA International Conference on combating corruption next year on 12th and 13th of May. I am coming, trust me, from a very, very beautiful island, full of history, myths, and beautiful landscape. I very much hope I will be able to host you next year as keynote speakers aside OSCE PA officials. We will have speakers from United Nations, OSCE, Greco, Manival, among others. We are hoping that participation will be strong and wide. We will all have something to learn from experts on fighting corruption. And mind you, I consider them as allies. They are not trying to make us do things or implement things on us. They are allies to help us fight corruption. Practical preparations have already begun, and we are looking into ways to make the conference as pertinent as possible to our work as parliamentarians. In this spirit, we will kindly ask interested delegations to answer a focused questionnaire before the conference, so that we, as well as our keynote speakers, will have a more accurate picture of the state of anti-corruption affairs. Before concluding, I would like to thank our Secretary General, Roberto Modella, for his kind support. I'm trying to speak Italian. Marco Bonabello is trying to teach me, so I'm trying to get the accent. And wise advice over these last few months. Thank you, Roberto. So thank you very much for your attention, and I must say that I would be very glad to hear any particular views or suggestions you have on these issues or any questions that may have arisen. Thank you all again.
Thank you very much, dear Irene, and thank you for this dynamic start. It's a very complex and a sensitive issue, and we hope, and I'm more than convinced that you will be successful. I met your speaker recently, and he's fully supportive, and thank you for extending this invitation for next year's conference in Cyprus. So now, please, Vice President Margareta Sederfeld, our special rapporteur on also a very important issue on Nemtsov's case.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And I would also like to thank our Moroccan host for hosting us, as well as our office. Thanks for all your support in this difficult issue. The assassination of Boris Nemtsov, a Russian opposition politician, 2015, have been of high interest for the international political field, as well as for lawyers and civil society and worldwide interest. There is even a discussion about certain laws as a result of the assassination of Boris Nemtsov. But I must first underline that my duty as special rapporteur on this is not to make any legal statement or to be a judge or a lawyer. It's nothing like that. It's just to make an investigation about what is reported, what have been written, documented. And this is very important as one of our basic fundamentals in OSCE PA is our value. It's about freedom of political engagement, it's freedom of speech, freedom of meeting. And we are making a lot of work in the political field. We are observing election, monitoring election, making statements. And this means that there is also a need as well for different parties, for different opinions, opposition, majority. And that's why this is also as well, of course, very important for us. And as I hope my distinguished colleagues are aware of, I did a preliminary report this summer at the seminar, which I'm very pleased that our president visited and also make a statement and speech, and there were several other speakers as well from different organizations. And this preliminary report was very well recognized and written about in media, and I have also been asked from several parliaments about the work and what is the result. How have I proceeded with the report? I have been in touch with the Council of Europe, as they have also done a report. Mr. Tsingeris was rapporteur. I have contacted the Russian administration and the legal bodies to get information from them. I have met with civil society. I have been in touch with different lawyers and organizations. And I will be ready to make the final presentation, as I have informed you about earlier, in the winter meeting in Vienna. And I hope it will be a ground for further discussion. Of course, to give another piece of knowledge about the assassination of Nemtsov, because it's important to know what's happened. But also to give a step forward for a deeper discussion as well in our organization about the possibilities for opposition parties and people with different and organizations with different opinion than the majority. I see it as a very important step forward for us to highlight this as we work with democracy, and one part of it is opposition's possibility. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Thank you indeed for your efforts, and we really look forward to get more information and, of course, reactions. We should react on this issue. In Vienna, maybe we can more thorough discussion at what stage is the investigation or additional information collection as you are trying to do it as a special rapporteur. Thank you indeed. So a few announcements, dear colleagues. Information on upcoming meetings of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly in 1920. So we'll have a bureau meeting in Bratislava, 4th, 6th December, while there will be a organized ministerial council meeting by chairmanship. Then the winter meeting, you know that it's always in Vienna, 21st of February 2020. Then bureau meeting again on the 27th of April next year in Copenhagen, thanks to our Danish hosts. And Then in Vancouver, 3-7 July, and also have our main annual session. And here is our Canadian colleague, please. Sit down. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, I'll be very brief. It's the end of a long day, and I know people want to get to the activity this evening. Canada is delighted to host the 29th annual meeting, the OSCE PA in Vancouver, from July 3rd to the 7th, 2020. The 2020 annual session will mark the third time Canada has hosted a meeting, the OSCE PA. The Canadian Parliament hosted the 1995 annual session in Toronto and the 2008 annual session as well. Vancouver, for those who have not been there, is a wonderful setting with the mountains, the forest, the oceans. I'm sure delegates will have a wonderful time. We will try to duplicate the wonderful hospitality and the entertainment that the Moroccan Association has provided for all the delegates at this meeting. I know organizers from the International Secretariat have already gone to Vancouver, and I understand arrangements are coming along as well. I just want to highlight as well the importance in Canada, as the President well knows, of gender parity, and it will be very important that that is reflected in Vancouver, or otherwise there'll be a firestorm of criticism as to what happened. But I know that you're sensitive to that, and that will be taken care of. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much again. We'd like to applaud to our Canadian hosts for this decision and great contribution. It will be exciting annual session. Thanks again. Now, we already heard the announcement from our San Marino delegation and colleagues about 2020 autumn meeting. Then we have also received the invitation of follow meetings, the 2021 Bucharest, Romania, 2021 autumn meeting in Dublin, thanks to efforts of Alan Farrell and our delegation. And of course, all statutory meetings from 2022 still formally require a host, but we expect from London the final maybe endorsement. It might be annual session in London, so we expect still the information. But Mark Pritchard is very hopeful, and we are hopeful too. So, and as I know that Bulgarian delegation wants to respond, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. President, dear colleagues, I would like to submit invitation to the Speaker of the Bulgarian Parliament, Mrs. Tsveta Karayancheva, for Assembly session in the autumn of 2022. It will be a pleasure for Bulgaria to host and show you our beautiful capital, Sofia. Thank you.
Very good. So there could be a competition, I think, but it's a great initiative, and it will raise also motivation of other countries. Thank you very much for your suggestion, or maybe decision already. And you know that we're always asking countries to contribute to the Parliamentary Assembly's work with this gesture, with hosting our Assembly's meeting, and it's great help to our Assembly. So I don't think that any other issues left for today. We will continue tomorrow our session, and we'll be concluding also the part of our work. But today, sincerely, I'd like to thank you all, because it's not that easy to sit at the Hall for 4 hours, debating, expressing ideas. It means that we are all very much engaged, which is really very important. Sitting next to this nice swimming pool here, and sunny days, and talking about hardships and challenges, but that's why we're elected, and that's why we're representing our nations and our parliaments and our people. So thank you very much once again. I'd like to applaud to all of you who are still in the hall. Yeah, say something.